Good morning and thank you so much for joining us. I thank you for being a part of Good Morning Kenya this Wednesday. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Now a highlight will be coming through this show this morning. I will be engaging the Turkana County Governor, that is Josephat Nanok, would like to understand his take on various issues, key among them the state of affairs in his county, that is Turkana. Remember, just a week ago, a concern was raised that COVID-19 is no longer much of a concern within Nairobi and its metropolitan area. It is sort of moving to areas like Turkana, Wajir, Mandera, and the likes. So what exactly is this government doing in as far as this is concerned? Not to mention, this interview comes at a time when there are various political intrigues within the country. All that and much more we'll be looking at right here on the show. Again, good morning. Let us kickstart your morning the best way only we know how.
Now, talking about political intrigues, yesterday what was trending on social media as well as mainstream media is the ripple effect of CJ's advisory to dissolve parliament over the gender rule. Now, it has been said by different critics that the CJ has ignored critics to play by the book. On the other hand, we have the top three executives going mute, while 416 MPs seem uneasy over that particular advisory. At the same time, focusing on stories making headlines in the counties is that a senator for Narok County, that is Ledama Olekina, says that we need to legalize marijuana owing to its economic value. Does it have economic value? That will be coming up in not too long in the headlines. I'm Regina Manyera.
A warm welcome once again to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jane Mambui. Kama kawaida, we are glad you choose to start your morning with us right here on KBC Channel 1. Now, today being Wednesday, we are going to be continuing with our series of conversation revolving around the ripple effects of COVID-19 and more specifically focusing on the film industry. And today, the other time we did have, some of the key stakeholders in the industry. We did have the CEO of the Kenya Film Commission, that is Mr. Timothy Owase. And today we're going to be having some industry stakeholders. We're going to be having a filmmaker and an actor joining us in studio to just get to hear how things have been for them, especially during this time, and what we can do as a people, as a country, to just formalize the film industry and take it as seriously as we, it deserves, because it is a career in itself. But when it comes to the creative industry, we tend to look at them as side hustles as opposed to fully fledged careers. So that is a conversation we're going to be having today. If you are a creative or someone in the film industry space, please be sure to just follow up on that conversation. Any questions or comments that you may be having that you would love for us to address, we absolutely welcome you to do so using our communication platforms. On Twitter, the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. On Facebook, our page is KBC Channel 1. And of course, the official station handle on Twitter as well is KBC Channel 1. And do remember to tag us individually. My handle is Jane Wambui. My colleagues, you can find them as Sam W. Njoroge on Twitter, at Ray Manyara, Nakalas Bonketu, at Doreen Arange. Heidi.
Hi. Good morning to you and everyone else on the set.
Hi.
Morning.
Yeah, you're supposed to say hi and good morning.
I know.
After hapo nilisema hi and good morning. So what is your response?
Good morning to you too.
Good.
What's a good?
Oh my God. All right. Now, Kenha and Kura have about 40 projects. This is inclusive of recarpeting of roads, reconstruction, as well as installation of footbridges. This is only in Nairobi City. So what today we will be doing is try to look at some of the projects that they have already completed. What that means is that our focus this morning when it comes to matters traffic, we'll be looking at Manyanja Road, Outer Ring Road, and a bit of what will be happening along Jogoo Road. Now, for all these roads that I've just mentioned, of course, it clicks in minds that these are one of those busy roads, especially when it comes to heavy traffic snarl up in the early morning hours. Now, what also that means is that we will definitely be trying to look at some better alternative routes for those flying those specific routes this morning, going about their businesses. Many thanks for making time. My name is Doreen Arange.
So there, Kalas Bonketu, I don't know, okay. There is this thing you said yesterday when you were doing a link-up segment, right? About a certain project that is going to take 3 years, and we shall continue monitoring the situation. But you said that it's contributing to too much traffic. I don't know, is there an update in as far as that is concerned today?
And
No.
erecting footbridges.
And
No, we stopped that. by the way.
mounting.
We stopped that.
Yeah.
We're no longer
I know.
erecting.
Oh,
This
God.
is a conversation that we normally have off air, so we won't take it right now here. But in regards to that, Sammy, the 3-year project that is actually in Nakuru town, and just as I had mentioned, that is a project that I will continue to keep tabs on, because right now the specific area in which there's still an ongoing construction is around my Mahiu area. At least inside the city of Nakuru, in terms of traffic, it's a little eased up because that is already done with. So just as I keep mentioning, in areas where the projects are still ongoing, there's a little bit of traffic now, but at least where it's already complete, we'll try and see some bit of improvements in those specific areas. So definitely we'll continue to keep tabs, because there's still an ongoing process in terms of that expansion of that reconstruction. And remember, I also said it's a 3-year project, began in 2019. So ultimately that means it's not yet complete.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let's clear the path for you to give us this morning's traffic updates.
Our first link up segment, eh?
Yep.
All right, and time for our first link-up segment. So we begin with Jogo Road. Let's just start with that specific route before we go to the others, in which Kura and Kenha have already completed the expansion process, or even areas in which they were installing footbridges. So as I had mentioned earlier, this is one of those busy roads. Jogo Road, Outer Ring, Manyanja Road, one of those busy roads. And just look at this, as you leave the Donholm roundabout, coming to the city center, moving at a really fast pace on both lanes, but slightly just next to Makadara there, before you get to Uchumi Supermarket, traffic beginning to really build up there. And it's unlike what I keep saying every time in this early hour, where it's just a couple of minutes past 7 a.m., because oftentimes I'd say something like traffic is just beginning to slightly build up, because it's still very early. But look at this. This is Jogo Road, and it's not even slightly beginning to build up. It's actually heavily built up, and we can just see that from the indicators of the colors there, a bit of red and more of maroon, which also just means it is not moving at all. It is just at a standstill. Now, you can also remember that I keep telling you all the time that every road has a different reason why there's traffic buildup. Now, when you look at this specific one, this is along Jogo Road. If you're someone who uses this route, then you can bear witness that we do not have so many, if I can say, companies and businesses along this route, like areas such as Westlands and Upper Hill. But along Jogo Road, the kind of estates, I can tell you for sure, numerous estates along this specific route, and also in terms of businesses, and this is in regards to the small-scale business traders, or if you may, the SMEs, quite a number of them as well along this route. And also one thing that I can mention is that especially on those areas or parts where we have the pedestrian walkways, also a number of small-scale businesses along this route. So when it comes to matters traffic, on this specific route, it is just attributed by the fact that we have there's numerous estates along this route. Now, when you look at this, traffic is now just being witnessed specifically on that lane that is heading over to the city center. Of course, that just confirms that reason, numerous estates. So it means that people that are leaving this area are ultimately, or definitely just going about their businesses, going to the city center, kind of activities as you head over there. Now look at this. As you leave the famous City Stadium, coming still through Jogoro, just before you leave Lusaka Road as well, coming all the way to the Donholm roundabout as you head over to Donholm, to Manyanja, to the other side of Embakasi through Outer Ring, as well as to the other side of Thika Road, still through Outer Ring Road. On that specific lane is moving really fast, no traffic at all. So again, what this means is that if you're leaving city center or CBD through Landis Road, through the City Stadium roundabout, coming all the way to Jogoro, to Donholm, to Outer Ring, to Thika Superhighway, to Embakasi on the other side, as well as Lusaka Road, just through that roundabout, the City Stadium roundabout, then it's just a smooth sailing for you, no traffic at all. And the beauty of it is that this is actually all through that entire lane. So it means there's no traffic at all on the other side. Just where there's traffic is specifically on that lane that is coming to the city center. Now, what I can say is that if you're living areas of Donholm, just as I mentioned, of Shaurimoyo, of Umoja and all these estates along Jogo Road, then clearly this is the best time for you to do that. At this hour is just the best time, because from what you're seeing or what you're spotting on our map is just traffic really moving at a really slow pace. And if you can imagine, if this is what you're seeing right now, just a few minutes past 7, what will happen when it gets to around 8, 9? And then again, you can remember that oftentimes, just as I was telling my colleagues earlier, is that anytime we witness heavy traffic buildup, is either there's a construction process, an ongoing project, a project that is still yet to be finished on some of these roads. But along this route, there's none of that. But you can see just from what you're spotting. And again, that just goes back to the whole thought and the whole statement that I mentioned. It is because of the numerous kind of estates or the many estates along Jogo Road. So this is how it's looking like this morning when it comes to matters traffic. But I won't be giving you any alternative routes for now. What I just say for now is that if you're coming from this route and you're watching, this is the best time for you to do that. You know, because when it gets to 8 and 9 or even 10, as I mentioned, it's going to be really, really heavy kind of traffic. So what I want us to do now, now what will happen is that for the next link-up segment, and as I had mentioned earlier, you know, given the fact that the kind of roads we'll be focusing on this morning are those roads where there's normally heavy kind of traffic buildup attributed to the many kind of activities or many kind of estates around there. So as I mentioned again, what we'll be doing is that we will definitely be trying to look at some alternative routes. But what I'll keep insisting is that if at all you're coming from these specific routes, this is the best time for you to leave your home. But as of now, this is how it's looking like in terms of traffic. We have just focused on Jogo Road, but probably in the next, links, we'll be trying to look at Outer Ring as well as Manyanja, those other two roads that I just mentioned earlier.
Now, that's how our major roads are looking this morning. Now, let's focus on stories making headlines, and I have the copy of the Standard with me this morning. The story that has been given prominence in this today's newspaper issue is the issue of the CJ's advisory there. With a big header going, there are restless 416 MPs. Now under siege, jittery legislators fight back and trade blame game on the floor of the House over Maraga's advice to send them home over the gender rule. Now, furious parliamentarians fault the advisory and attack the Chief Justice. The Speaker Muturi-led PSC resolves to move to court to block dissolution. Now, while this is still happening within the floor of the House, is that we have the executive, the three, quite going on mute in light of this advisory. And the scribe here has put it as horns of a dilemma. Two top political leaders unite in silence over Chief Justice Maraga's advice to President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament for failure to enact two-thirds gender rule. At the same time, on the front page of today's issue of the Standard, we have a story highlighting the state of preparedness of our schools ahead of face-to-face learning resumption. That is a new directive, is that schools used as COVID centers to be fumigated as tutors are ordered to come up with innovative curriculum strategies. Details pertaining those stories that have been given, prominence on the issue of the Standard today will be coming up in not too long in the headlines.
Let's take a look at the Star now, where the headline reads, Raila supporters attack CJ Maraga over Uhuru's letter, and they praised him in 2017 for upholding the Constitution. However, they are now telling him to resign. This is on pages 4 to 5 of the Star this morning. Only a handful of female leaders actually defended Chief Justice David Maraga. This is after he breathed life to Article 261 of the Constitution, thus petitioning the President to dissolve Parliament after they were unable to reach a consensus when it comes to legislation that would guide the country to achieve the two-thirds agenda rule. Also highlighted on this page, Uhurao will implode just like Uhuruto. This is Kabando Wakabando giving an opinion voice there on page 21 of the Star as far as the supremacy battles are concerned between the Senate and the National Assembly. Senators protest rejection of 13 bills by Muturi-led MPs. There has always been a sharp division when it comes to the definition of a money bill, all right? And that has orchestrated this particular fallout between the senators and members of the National Assembly. Kenya National Union of Teachers now calls for more state support as schools reopen. That directive has been given that teachers be back in school by next week, Monday, to facilitate an exercise through which protocol will be, protocol, yes, will be established across schools to see or ensure a reopening happen at least by sometime in October. And last but not least, I draw your attention there to the headache of being a governor. This is given by Wilbur Otichilo. He is the Vihiga County governor. But a photo there on the front page of the Star, all too interesting. Ruto decided to storm Jubilee headquarters yesterday, but party bosses snubbed his visit. And he's pictured there making an entrance to the Jubilee headquarters in Pangani yesterday. However, top party bosses did snub that particular visit. So that is the front page of the Star for you. As much as I've been holding it for you, don't worry, you're going to get it somehow, somewhere.
All right, let's now have a look at the front page of the Daily Nation. That particular story involving the CJ and his proposal to dissolve the government is also taking center stage there on the front page of the Daily Nation. It is the big read, Can Uhuru Save the Day? And in brief, it talks of how the president is at a crossroads, faced with limited options following the CJ's advice to dissolve Parliament over the 2000 gender rule, and now President Kenyatta is said to have limited options and now must do the right thing by the Constitution and by Kenyans. Details of how it has been approached on the Daily Nation coming up in a bit. On the top there of the Daily Nation, the header talking about how there is trouble over bank accounts, with 191 officers could be facing criminal charges as they have been operating bank accounts abroad without the go-ahead from the EACC. Details coming in a bit. Also, the question of a COVID vaccine. Kenya is among the list of countries who are set to receive the vaccine come 2021. And on matters concerning the education docket, we can picture therein we have the NAT Secretary General, that is Wilson Sosion, and the CEO of the Gender Violence Recovery Center, that is Alberta Wambua, when they were giving a brief in regards to the government prioritizing support groups at this time as opposed to pushing for the reopening of schools. And when it comes to the school timetable here, 5th of October has been put as the official date for the official reopening of schools, and of course the phased reopening as has been proposed, with Class 8 and Form 4 learners being the first ones to report, and this will continue up until the 19th of October. Details of all this coming up as we continue with this particular segment in the headlines.
Now, still keeping up with the stories making headlines here, we just digress a bit into matters of graft, where now the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, has lined up 117 witnesses in its bid to prove a case against Malindi MP Aisha Jumwa in a 20 million shillings graft case. Yesterday, Jumwa's lawyer, Jared Magalo, confirmed that the DPP had supplied them with 117 witness statements and 43 documents in relation to the graft charges against Jumwa. Further on, it is claimed that the Malindi legislator bought a house in installment to conceal the proceeds of crime stolen from the Malindi National Government Constituency Development Fund. The story where, 6 officials of the Constituency Development Fund are also to face charges of conspiring to steal 57.7 million shillings from the kitty. And we say that we are poor and already in the red in as far as public debt is concerned. War against draft. 117 witnesses against Aisha Jumwa.
So yesterday, yesterday, as the Ministry of Health gave statistics on the state of COVID-19 in the country, a concern was raised over patients with dementia. That is because, given their condition, they do not exactly understand what is interfering with the quality of life, with the course of their lives as they have known it. Some may not understand why they have to wear a mask. Some may not understand why they have to keep washing their hands. And as much as they may even understand, the likelihood to forget is very high. and that's through the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Health, that is Dr. Rashid Aman. This particular concern was raised yesterday. It's covered, and it's the angle given in as far as coverage on COVID-19 is concerned. That is on page 3 of the Star, talking about, you know what, if you are a caregiver, if you are a relative to a patient who suffers from dementia, you should be on the lookout. You should take extra responsibility, extra caution to ensure that, you know, anyone with dementia does not fall victim of COVID-19, because the situation warrants that they may forget to do some of these things, or they may not even understand why they have to do them in the first place. So if you're a caregiver, if you're a relative living with a patient who has dementia, kindly take note. Page 3 of the Star has that story for you.
Now let's move on to the Daily Nation and look at this story that is one of the stories on the front page of the Daily Nation in regards to officials who have been put on the spot when it comes to running illegal quote-unquote illegal bank accounts abroad, and this is also in line with the war on corruption that is ongoing here in the country. And the affected workers have been given until the 31st of October to make full disclosure of those particular accounts. And getting to the details of this particular story is that EACC is now warning staff that, especially those who are in service to the government, that they risk criminal trials if they do not declare and seek approvals for these particular accounts. And looking at the most recent incident where 191 public officers in foreign mission who have been found to illegally operate secret bank accounts. And according to the law, they are required to disclose fully any transactions of foreign bank accounts, and of course with the permission of the EACC. And according to an audit that was done by the EACC, it emerged that there were accounts that were held outside Kenya by officers who are in the public docket, and especially the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And according to Section 16 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, this is an offense, and they risk a 5-year imprisonment or a 5 million fine, or both. And this was explained by Mr. Mbarak. And according to the EACC, they have also further identified 58 officers who, despite approval for their bank accounts, which they hold abroad, they have failed to furnish the Commission with their annual bank statements, which is also in violation of this particular act. So if you are considering to have an account abroad and you are holding a government office, you need to seek permission from the EACC, and of course under this particular act, that is Leadership and Integrity, or else you risk criminal charges. And the consequences being 5 years in jail, a 5-year jail term, or 5 million fine, or both.
Now, after that advisory by the Chief Justice, there's been a lot of speculation as to what direction the executive will take if they're going to heed to that advisory. And the question has been, what does the law say? Is the president bound to take the advisory? Now, there are different views, and I'd want to read 3 opinions that have been captured by the Standard this morning on page 6. Now, according to Bobby Mkangi, the former member of COE, that is, he says they will come in not to finish the term of the 12th Parliament, but as a new Parliament. Then we will vote for the President, governors and MCAs in 2022. Maybe this is an opportunity to do staggered elections. That is what the Committee of Experts former member Bobby Mkangi says about if indeed executive heeds to Maraga's advice and dissolves the House. Another member at Sango Chisoni says, but they have failed, and we had proposed mixed member proportional representation and proportional representation, but they did not listen. This could have cured the current problem. That is what Atsango Chisoni, former member of the Committee of Experts, had to say in regard to this issue. Now, NAC Kenya leader Martha Karua, who turned 63 yesterday and is still looking dope, as what people have been saying on social media, yes. And Sam is looking at me as if I'm speaking French, but yes, if you went to social media, especially Twitter, and looked at her post where she says she's 63 and she's enjoying her birthday, very many people came to say that you're looking very young, you've aged gracefully, and I'd want to say happy birthday to you, belated as it may. Martha Karua, indeed we share a birthday month. Yes, Sam is still staring. Now, she said, I have an issue with the manner his court handled my petition, but I have to be honest. His boldness in nullifying the 2017 presidential election and the advice to dissolve parliament are both legally sound and groundbreaking. The question is, what if Uhuru heeds to Maraga's advice and dissolves the House? The question still lingers on. With this, we take a short break, but when we return, we're still going to be focusing on matters of national importance.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m, on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m, and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC Online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Without my permission, he cannot step out of his room even for a moment.
Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Please do not kill me.
Please do not kill him.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I'm here on business.
Not interested.
Funny. I always thought you wanted corner gym. But if you're really not interested, so? Are you willing to buy the gym should Julia decide to sell it?
What's his problem?
Exactly.
Imagine shock yangu nilipoingia kwa nyumba yangu nikapata a stranger sitting there.
I've been trying to find out why he would leave the gym to me. And Chorus, what do you remember about him?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Those stupid idiots are trying to get ahead of me. But I won't let them. That money's going to be mine. Somebody's giving that woman advice. Now she says she wants to speak with Ramon. What do we do, Rulo? What now? I don't know. Let me think, bro. Your place is under surveillance, but we know there are more people there with you. See? You can't say anything, huh? Be careful. You don't want to play games with me. I'm gonna give you a chance to speak with your son. But I don't want 500,000. Now I want 600,000.
All right, but before I give you a single cent, I want to speak to my son Ramon.
In Love with Ramon. On the next episode of
Mzee Masudi, we tuheshimiane. Wewe
Mtu mimi mwenyewe nina miaka 18, nina passport, nina ID. Wao mimi ni mtu mzima. Upo? Zuena.
Sasa ushakazana nini wewe? Ushakazana nini?
Unaniaibisha yule. Zuena, mbona unaniaibisha hivyo wewe?
Hatujali kazi zenu
Glad to have you back. This is the best way indeed to start your morning. You're watching Good Morning Kenya, and I'm Regina Manyara. Now we start off with matters of schools. It's all systems go as schools are set to reopen. This comes at a time when various, especially parents and guardians, have come out and said that they're not ready to have the schools resume face-to-face learning. However, the Education Ministry says is that they expect that the teachers to report to work or to the various workstations, which are the schools, by Monday. However, in a letter to the Ministry of Health, Basic Education PS Bello Kipsang wants the cleaning done in time to allow teachers prepare for the reopening of schools. This is in regard to schools that were used as COVID centers. They need to be fumigated before the tutors as well as the learners resume face-to-face learning. Now, this is a report that will be required. The deadline is on Monday. And further on, there's Education CS George Magoha said that only schools would open. That is, however, there have been reports that learning could resume a week after the teachers have reported back. This has caused a lot of uproar and a lot of uncertainty, especially from various stakeholders, one of them being the parents, because they're not quite sure exactly which date the children are reopening. The proposed date that we got, though hasn't been confirmed, is the 19th of October. Well, we know 20th October happens to be a holiday. Does this change the dynamics of the school calendar? Yes. How does it change it? We're waiting to find out details as we proceed. We are learning by the day, and as we say, these are part of COVID-19 disruptions. Now, schools that were used as COVID centers to be fumigated before Monday, when the tutors are expected to report to school ahead of the reopening schedule. Are we ready? Well, we'll find out.
That is a big question on so many people's mind, and especially parents. And I just want to also look at that particular story as it has been written here on the Daily Nation in regards to that final proposal from the CS of Education, as he was addressing yesterday. He did say that schools will officially be opened between the 5th and the 19th of October, with Standard 8 and Form 4 learners being the first ones to report, and consequently doing the examinations in April of 2021. Then a week or two after their resumption, the rest of the learners, that is from pre-primary up until grade 6, will be reporting. Up until grade 3 and Standard 5 and Standard 6 will now report during the second phase of the resumption of school protocol. And it is said that this phased approach to reopening schools is put in place to just ensure that the schools are able to manage the learners, and while still implementing the COVID-19 health protocols as has been put in place. And now also this phased reopening is going to allow the government to deliver 360,000 desks to 5,136 primary schools, and another 263,000 lockers and chairs to 5,254 secondary schools. Now, according to this particular committee that was also put in place, they did say that grade 5 looking at grade 4 pupils who are expected to sit for their first national examination at grade 6 in 2023 will go as planned before they get to join junior secondary school. And grade 5 who are supposed to begin their studies in January will now begin their academic calendar studies in June of next year. And of course, further directives are going to be put in place as and when the situation demands. So that is how far we have come in regards to the update on the reopening of schools. And of course, as and when we get more information, we'll be here to let you know as a parent, as a teacher, as a stakeholder in this education docket, what the way forward is as we try to deal with this new normal that we are in.
Now, as we move to page 9 of the Star, let's take a look at the story there. The JSC, that is the Judicial Service Commission, now informs the court to vacate order blocking Mwilu's disciplinary hearing. We had a section of petitioners who want the Deputy Chief Justice removed from office, citing misconduct. However, the Judicial Service Commission has now requested the High Court to vacate those particular orders, and the proceedings before the Commission revolve around Mwilu's alleged misconduct, including her 315 million Kenya shillings dealings with collapsed Imperial Bank. Moving forward is that you'll get details that Prosecution Counsel Alexander Muteti said let me begin with the previous paragraph. At the same time, the Director of Public Prosecutions yesterday asked to be enjoined in the case, that is the 315 million Kenya shillings case, but the Prosecution Counsel argued that they have been meeting the threshold to be enjoined and that it will be inappropriate for Mwilu to lock out other parties. Now, Mwilu has only named JSC and the two commissioners as respondents in the case, and Justice Weldon Korir will rule on the application come October 27.
Indeed. Now, let's go, and I want to pose this question to my core anchors this morning. Do you take herbal medicine? Let's start off with Jane. Have you ever made herbal medicine or taken herbal medicine?
Do home concoctions fall in that category?
I think so. Marubaini and all that stuff, have you?
Akina Marubaini, no.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
Ginger, lemon, garlic.
Yes, my question, do they fall in herbal medicine?
So let's be clear, Jane.
Yes.
Because now, I tend to feel someone is trying to lure us slowly into making certain admissions on national television. No. Ginger, garlic, honey, that's the only herbal medicine I have known.
Well, you don't even use herbal toothpaste? Anyway, that's not the point. The point is the reason why there's been a slow uptake of traditional drugs in Kenya. Yes. Now, we have the solutions. Remember when COVID, the onset of COVID, Madagascar made world news by having a herbal, a herbal remedy, or COVID organics, basically, drink believed to treat corona. Well, there was a lot of hula-baloo. Different countries, including Ghana, ordered their own. We don't know how this is going on, as well as, traditional medicine in Tanzania just across borders. Now, here in Kenya, fact is that herbalists have come out to say that the reason why there's been a slow uptake of traditional drugs in Kenya is that herbalists are recognized in the law as witches under the Ministry of Sports and Culture. And so there's basically no difference between us and traditional dancers. That is what one miner, Dr. Maina Mwea, who is a herbalist, has to say. He further on says in this particular article that has been captured on the issue of the Standard this morning, is that the 1925 Witchcraft Act was legislated in order to outlaw the practice of traditional medicine due to its association with black magic and to pave way for modern medicine. Some sections of the act were later repealed in 1962 and in 1985, and the herbalists were put under the Ministry of Culture. However, according to Ronald Inyangala, director of the Product Evaluation and Registration at the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, says that there is no law that governs herbal medicine. Yes, maybe that's the reason why we do not take it seriously. Mganga anajigangua, as it is. Now, other than that, details in regard to why we are not taking traditional drugs in Kenya seriously is that most herbalists are not willing also to submit their medicines for efficacy and safety tests, while some of them are arguing and guarding their recipes, while others do not have the finances to go through the whole process. Remember when we first confirmed our first COVID case on March 13th, there was a meme that was going around on social media. And in the meme, there was ginger, garlic, mwarubaini, and other herbs there. And the title was Corona Came to the Wrong Continent. And with what has been happening, especially on the international front, is that other continents are wondering then, other than just the projections that were given that, and I can quote, saying that it will be bloody and messy in Africa and we'll be collecting bodies. We have actually proven to the world that it isn't so. And some people are actually not so happy with that turn of events in as far as how Africa, and even here in particular, how we are handling the issue. We do not have the many cases as expected. So does it have to do with our background, the tropical issues that we've had to deal with over time? Well, that is, we'll see as time goes by, but now we are not taking our traditional drugs seriously as they should. And as they say, they are in the same category as witches. They are characterized, herbalists are characterized as witches under the Ministry of Sports and Culture.
Wow. Yeah, but the 1925 legislation, that one absolutely was done. No, it was done at a point where we were going through a lot. There was the whole thing of being colonized. There was also the element of the Industrial Revolution, and medicine was sort of at the cornerstone. So they needed a market for the medicine, and Africa provided that. I mean, a majority of our countries in Africa were under colonial rule. So that does make sense. However, moving on, if we've known that since 1925, we've had this piece of law that has existed over time, came the 80s, we decided to take herbalists under the Ministry of Culture. I think there's also the whole issue of perception, guys. You know, the fact that especially the millennials and, the millennials have a problem understanding why I should take traditional medicine. You see, and it's only once you're old enough, you're able to make that decision if you would like to switch from conventional to traditional. I mean, it's all up to you. But I honestly thought you wanted to tie that story with the Ledama Olekina story. I was like, no, no, Regina, you're not doing this on a Wednesday morning.
But I didn't, did I?
No, you did not.
Now you've made people curious exactly what we're talking about, and as far as the senator from Nakuru is concerned, well,
yeah.
Senator Ledama Olekina says that we need to legalize the holy herb, weed.
Yeah. Due to its economic value.
Yes.
But remember, there was another gentleman, I can't remember his name quite frankly, last year. He was talking about legalizing marijuana because of its health benefits. Apparently, we are missing out, guys. We are missing out on the health benefits of marijuana. So clearly, this is a conversation that will be, emphasized over and over and over again moving forward. It's an interesting time to be a Kenyan. That's all I can say.
Medicinal marijuana.
Yeah. And actually, there are people who are trying to allege that the presence of marijuana within the Caribbean has contributed to low infection rates of COVID-19. I don't know how true that is, but hey, it is what it is, right?
You're living the high life, isn't it?
All right, let's now continue with this whole conversation around traditional medicine, and now we bring it to COVID-19 with conventional medicine. And Kenya is among the countries who are set to receive the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines come 2021. And this is according to a document that was put out by the World Health Organization. And it said that, Kenya is among the countries that are going to be receiving this first batch of vaccines, which is going to be coming in small portions and continuously until we get to a point where we have enough to vaccinate people at the highest priority when the vaccine is now available in larger doses. And still looking at that particular vaccine, it's called the COVAX, COVID-19 vaccination. Kenya is, and of course all the rest of the countries in Africa are going to be given this particular vaccine, and it is said that it has been created to ensure the equitable access and allocation of COVID-19 health products between the world's richest countries and those in the developing world. And according to what the Director General here in Kenya, Mr. Amoth, had to say, he said that, we joined this COVAX facility under the World Health Organization to ensure that we are able to access any vaccines that may result from the current trials that are currently ongoing across the world. And the report went on to say that they are going to be starting with the 3 large % in terms of distributing this particular vaccine. And the first group of people who have been given priority to receive this particular vaccine are the frontline workers in the health and social care settings in most countries, because according to the World Health Organization, they say that saying that when the vaccine is in short supply, countries should focus on protecting the health system, and then consequently when they are able to produce more vaccine, the next group to receive this particular vaccine will be high-risk adults who are most especially aged above 65 years going on. Those will be the second category to receive this particular vaccination of COVID-19 come 2021. Conventional medicine. And here in Kenya, once we're able to get now the proper supply, it's going to be given in 1 in every 5 Kenyans, translating to about 9.4 million Kenyans who will be receiving the first batch of the vaccine.
At least I love the fact that they stress it will not be expensive, because there was a concern earlier this year that should we find a vaccine, it could turn out to be very, very expensive, owing to the amount of resources that have gone into developing that particular vaccine. But now that particular concern or that fear has been arraigned, and they're saying that it will not be expensive. They're actually talking about 300 per dose. You may require 2, so that's around 600. Yes. 1 in every 5 Kenyans will be getting the vaccine during the initial stages of rolling it out, but moving forward, things are going to improve. Yes. So that is a pocket of sunshine in as far as fighting the pandemic is concerned, I believe, guys.
Indeed so. And one of our viewers has taken to Twitter and actually seems to just be requesting one thing only. That is at one Tom Mwema says, Senator Ledama Olekina should just take us here. We promised we just want to see the plantation. We just want to see the plantation, take a picture and come back to the city. This is in regard to his call to have weed legalized. So Tony Mwema just says he just wants to go to the plantation, take a picture and come back to the city. That's it. That's all he requests. Yes.
And speaking of tweets, there's also one Joseph here on my Twitter who's saying, this reminds me of that time when they were banning marijuana in large scale as a way of destroying it.
Everyone who was within that area got high.
But of course, this conversation is going to definitely continue happening, especially on the social media front, because as Kenyans, we don't let go of such things. Yeah.
Yep.
But let's just wait and see how it goes. I mean, it's one in many proposals that have been put forth when it comes to legalizing so many things. So let's just wait and see how it will unfold, because it definitely will unfold to the left or to the right.
It can also unfold top down.
Lakini ikienda left imechujwa, so ikienda right imepitishwa, so let's
ikienda juu imepitishwa, ikienda juu imepitishwa, ikienda chini imeshushwa. I'm just saying, right?
You just had to.
Yeah, and I'm trying really to move on from this weed conversation, because the Kenya National Union of Teachers is now calling for more support when it comes to schools reopening. And TSC directed teachers to be back in school by Monday, but the Kenya National Union of Teachers, there through the Secretary General, that is Wilson Session, argues that more support is needed in as far as reopening of schools is concerned. I mean, laying down of infrastructure, the protocol that is going to guide the reopening of schools. He says that a lot should be done in this area to ensure that proper and seamless reopening of schools is conducted, and also not to have this as the link that is going to send us back to, having our curve go all the way to the peak, because children are children at the end of the day. And we've seen other countries where schools have been reopened and then shut down after a short while. So there you go. The KNUC now calling on more support to ready schools for reopening.
Now, on my end of things, as we come to a closing, as far as the headlines are concerned, I would want us to go a little bit international and look at what is happening within the United States of America now. The vacancy appends presidential race in key battlegrounds. This is what the header of this particular article that has been captured on page 23 of the Standard this morning. And now with the passing on of Ginsburg's death, passing on of Ginsburg, is that Republicans have seen this as a golden opportunity for President Trump to pick another conservative. Now, many Republicans see her passing, saying that this is an opportunity, a lifelong sport for a nine-member bench. Now, Michelle Burns, a stay-home mother of 6 in a small city of Monroe in southern Michigan, says it's God's will and Trump will fill the court vacancy before the vote. Now, this is quite a debate here as to, is this Biden was quoted over the last 48 hours saying that it is not up to the current president, that is Donald Trump, to pick a replacement for Ginsburg, but the incumbent president should actually do so. Which way this swings, whether liberal or Republican, it is a matter of waiting and seeing the direction that this is going to take. This is what is happening across borders. And
before we actually get to close this particular segment, there's this headline here on the County News segment of the Daily Nation saying, "We fought the good fight." Senators say this in regards to the cash row. Was it really a good fight?
Sorry, what, Jane?
Senators are saying they fought the good fight.
Who fought the good fight?
Senators, when it comes to the division of revenue that was happening, this whole debate about the division of revenue. They said they did the best that they could. They fought a good fight.
Yeah, probably they did. I mean,
good fight for who?
And it's relative. But it's not like we're not appreciating what actually, yes, they did. On the flip side, yes, they did.
How?
I mean, let me tell you, you do not want to grind operations in a county to a halt. That's the last thing you want to do.
We were almost there.
We were actually there because just the previous day, the COG had given an order to have some of these services grinded to a halt.
Yeah.
You do not want to be in that kind of a position, especially now. So once they were able to come together and they signed that particular agreement, the 12-member team, for me, that's a step in the right direction. I also thank the executive for stepping in and ensuring that the country is not plunged into a mess, because that was just a total mess. But fight the better fight.
But
you fought the good one.
Really?
You fought the good one. Fight the better fight. And that is making sure that we're not in this kind of a situation each year, day, like every time we get into July, August, September, there's always this kind of a crisis.
And that's
so
the problem
kindly,
I have with this particular situation.
The better fight is getting us out of it.
That is the big problem that we have, because we know it is coming, but we still choose to wait until we get to that point to argue things out. And who's bearing the burden of this whole situation? We, the Wanjiko.
But also, let's appreciate the politics behind it. I mean, if you're running around the corridors of politics, it's give take to try and get a win-win. So it is what it is, but the better fight would be making sure that the country is not brought into this kind of situation. Every time we are closing and opening a financial year. That's all I can say.
Being proactive as opposed to being
reactive.
Now, just a shifting focus as we call this, or rather bring this to a close, is that now sports is changing in the international scene, and athletics is literally walking away from decadence and corruption. Why? Well, former World Athletics President Diak is sentenced to jail for corruption. Him and his son, that is Masata are accused alongside others of running a scheme dubbed as the Full Protection, and the IAAF boss was found guilty of soliciting over 444.4 million shillings. Yes. So now Diak, who is age 87, and the former president of the IAAF, known as the World Athletics Today, faces a future behind bars after he was jailed for 4 years and 2 of them suspended. And this happened in a French court. We're changing dynamics in as far as the sporting arena is concerned. Diak there, 87, to spend some time behind bars.
Age is just but a number.
Hey guys, so let's bring this to a close. This is the only way to start your day. Good morning, Kenya. That has been in the headlines for you. Now, Doreen is coming up next with another traffic update, and we shall be having Jane coming up later for the lifestyle item of the day. Keep it. Good morning, Kenya.
This Wednesday on KBC Channel 1.
You're not the only one who thinks that. If that were so, I would ask the police myself to go find him until we can clear this matter up. Ramon?
Zenaida!
It's him.
Put the speaker on, put it on, and calm down. Just relax. Calm down and make sure to talk to him.
In love with Ramon.
I see me, I feel love from a distance. What? Come my way. Anything that you want, oh my love, I'm gonna give you it with just 2 sweet reggae. I must see close for line. I wear them fine time behind.
Next on.
It is highly unlikely that one would catch COVID-19 from food or food packaging. COVID-19 is a respiratory condition and it is mostly spread through droplets.
Data from UNESCO shows that half of learners worldwide do not have a household computer, while in sub-Saharan Africa alone, 89% do not have computers and 82% lack access to the internet. As schools shifted to online learning, one man in Nigeria has found a way of ensuring that students from disadvantaged backgrounds are able to continue learning remotely like their more privileged peers.
How are you doing this morning? So good to see you.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television, and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m., on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa, and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC Online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Well, in just a few minutes past 8, how about we look at how the roads are doing in terms of traffic. Now, before we get to the traffic flow, look at this. What you're seeing right now, this is the image of Manyanja Road. If you can remember, I told you that today we'll be trying to focus on some of the already complete projects of Kura and Kenha, what they've actually been doing in terms of road expansion, road reconstruction, recarpeting, installing footbridges, ensuring that drainage systems, traffic lights, traffic signals, NMT as well are put in place in some of these major roads in which there have been ongoing work. So this is an already complete project of both Kura. Kura is actually the Kenyan Urban Roads Authorities, because there's no any bridge installed here, so basically we can't see any works of Kenha there. But it's still a collaborative, kind of projects in which they're doing. Now, from what you're seeing on the first image, this is actually how this road was looking like. And again, if you can remember, I've kept telling you that whatever it is that they are doing in terms of this road expansions, as well as all the other activities they're doing when it comes to matters roads, is not just on major roads. For instance, not just on roads such as Mombasa Road, Ngong Road, Thika Super Highway, which we've been seeing a lot of activities, but also on other minor roads, as well as some slip roads, and also which is inclusive of roads that are inside the estate. So this specific one, Manyanja Road, is actually a road that comes from inside the estates, places such as Donholm, Jacaranda, coming all the way to Jogoo Road, as well as through Outer Ring Road, if at all you're heading to the city center. Now, this is how it was looking like the first time before the process began. What you're seeing on the first image there. So this is how it's looking like, and just the way I've mentioned that also inside the estates is part of what they are doing when it comes to whatever kind of road projects they have embarked on or that is still ongoing. Now, when you look on the other image, it's actually a complete work of how Manyanja Road now looks like. And again, from what you're spotting on this image is that we still have, the non-motorized transport system, because you can remember I told you that whatever they are doing is not just road expansion, making it one carriage to dual carriage roads, or even expanding it to super highways. They still are ensuring that in as much as they do that, non-motorized transport system, which is inclusive of pedestrian walkways as well as cyclist lanes, are put in place. However, what you're seeing is that not all roads have both of these two NMTs, because on this specific one we can only see the pedestrian walkways, which is actually on the other side. So we have the main road, which caters for both public and private vehicles, as well as on the other side now we have the non-motorized transport system, which caters for pedestrian walkways. So yes, in as much as this may not really have the cyclist lanes, but at least it has the walkways, which wasn't there in most of these roads. And I keep mentioning to you that at times it becomes very difficult. Sometimes it leads to the kind of accidents that we keep witnessing, because then if everyone is using the main road, which means that both public, private vehicles, cyclists, as well as pedestrians are using the main road, then it becomes very difficult. Sometimes it leads to accidents, just as I've mentioned, and also it leads to heavy traffic. And I keep telling the reason as to why it leads to heavy traffic is because sometimes, especially on these major roads, it forces the traffic police to just stop the vehicles so that pedestrians can pass through. But if we have designated lanes, then it means that it's a smooth sailing for anyone using the roads. So this is how actually it was looking like, and this is how it is looking like. So aside from Manyanja Road, which is a road that caters for those that are coming from inside the estates or the residents there, another project which they have embarked on, which is again a road inside the estates, is the Lunga Road, which you can remember I was really explaining to you how they are doing it and how they're planning to actually continue with that process. So those are just some of the projects in which they are doing, at least to ensure that they don't just make it easy for those that are coming to the city center, but as well also for the residents inside the estates. So as I mentioned, this is already a complete project. So how about we look at the traffic flow on this specific area? So this is what we have there. Just before I get back to Jogoo Road and try to look at some alternative routes, because what I'm spotting right now is that traffic has really begun to heavily build up on that specific route. But how about we look at Manyanja Road? Now, this is the map that we have there as you leave the estates that I just mentioned. If at all you're coming from Donholm, you're coming from Jacaranda Estate, coming all the way to the city center, as well as those estates that are adjoined to this specific route. Now, look at this. This is actually how it looks. What you're seeing right now there, this is the green color. Now, anytime you see the green color, it just means that there's no traffic at all, moving really fast. So also what that means is that if at all you're going about any kind of activities, where on either side, actually, you can safely and, do that at a really fast rate, because there's no traffic at all. Now, the interesting bit with this specific route is that, especially just as you leave the estates there, and this is all through, nothing in terms of the cocktail of colors, it's just green, all through, which means it's just clear ways, easy movement. So what this means is that whatever kind of projects they've been doing or they embarked on, and just to show you, that's why I was showing you the images, how it was looking then and how it is looking now. It means that all this works they've been doing and complete already are serving its purpose, because this is one of the major reasons to reduce on the traffic flow, in as much as they also want to reduce on the accident rates also inside this estate. Now, look at how the road is looking like, moving pretty fast. So also it means that if you're coming from Juja Road, coming from Outer Ring Road, from Jogo Road, from city center as well, using those roads that I've just mentioned, and if at all you're going to Manyanja Road or the estates along this route, or even any kind of activity this morning hour, there is just clear ways for you, no traffic at all. And this has been clearly shown by what we are seeing there, the green color all through as you leave the estates heading to those roads that I just mentioned earlier, as well as leaving those roads I mentioned as you come all the way to the estates or even any kind of activities around this area. So green all through, no traffic at all, moving really fast. Next to, again, Donholm Naivas coming all the way to the city center, moving pretty fast. Just traffic beginning to slightly build up past the Donholm Naivas there as you come to the CBD. But then again, look at this. In as much as, yes, there's a bit of change in color there, where we're now beginning to spot a bit of the orange and indicating that traffic has begun to just slightly build up there. So look at that. In as much as, yes, it is beginning to slightly build up, but it is still a manageable kind of traffic. So what that means is that, yes, there's traffic, but still moving. So it also means that you don't have to stay on the road for long. So it also, again, means that you can just, be going to the city center and just a smooth sailing for you, or going any kind of activities, but a smooth sailing for you. But again, also traffic begins to slightly build up on the other lane as you head over to the estate, still sticking with Manyanja Road, but still, in as much as, yes, it is beginning to slightly build up, but it is a manageable kind of traffic. So ultimately, just to sum it up there, it means that whatever kind of works they've embarked on, and even the projects that they've already completed, looks like it is serving its purpose, and serving it very, very well, because right now, barely any kind of heavy traffic build up like how we'd expect to see, especially in this early morning hour, just a manageable kind of traffic. And again, it is just on some specific areas where traffic is building up, but also from what you've just seen there, what I showed you is that on major parts is really moving at a pretty fast pace. So that's how it's looking like on Manyanja Road. But probably in the next link, we'll try to look at Outer Ring as well as Jogo Road, because that was, again, our focus this morning. But as of now, that's how it's looking like.
Welcome. Thank you for staying with us. If you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. I am Jane Wambui. Do let us know where you're watching us from, how you are enjoying the show. Get onto Twitter. The hashtag to use is Good Morning Kenya. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1, and our individual handles are at Doreen Arange, at Ray Manyara, at Sam W. Njoroge, and my handle is at Jane Wambui. Also, our Facebook page is KBC Channel 1. So get to tweeting, get to posting. I'm going to be reading your feedback in not too long. But for now, we want to get into the first interview for the day, all about our lifestyle segment. And as mentioned earlier on in the intro, we are going to be continuing with our series of conversation around the film industry. A couple of weeks back, we did have the CEO of the Kenya Film Commission, Mr. Timothy Owasa. He came through to just let us know, the strides that we are making in trying to formalize the film industry, how far we have come, the problem as is, given that film is one of the pillars that is earning the country so much money, not just in Kenya, but in Africa and worldwide. So we want to understand how it is now for the actual stakeholders, the filmmakers, the actors in the industry, how things are for them, and especially now during this pandemic when everything was just turned upside down, left, right, center, here, there. We want to understand how they have been doing, how the creative space has been affected, and get to know what the creatives feel should be the best way forward in terms of laying the foundation for a better future, especially when it comes to formalizing the film industry. And with me in studio this morning, I have two stakeholders, and I'll start with the lady to the extreme left of the studio, Angela Nancy. Karibu sana. Hi. Hi. Good to have you.
Thank you thank you so much. It's good to be here.
How can guys find you on social media?
Angela with a J. Usually if you do Angela with a J, it works perfectly. So ANJELLA_Nancy on all my social media. Nancy is with an IE. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But if you just Google Angela with a J, you'll find me.
I like how specific you are with the spelling of your names. Angela with a J. And Nancy is an IE at the end. So check her out on social media. Any questions or clarifications that you need from her that you feel you don't want to ask to address on this national platform, I believe she'll be able to address them as and when they come in. I'm a VP. Awesome. And to my immediate left here, closest to me, we have Gregory Kiwo, who is the CEO of Kiwo Films and also doubles up as a film director. Hi, Greg.
How are you?
Am I allowed to call you Greg?
Yes, you are.
I like it.
Though in the industry, people call me Kiwo.
Kiwo?
Yes,
But
Kiwo.
for Guboni Kenya, we'll call you Greg.
Okay.
Karibu sana.
It's a done deal. Karibu.
Thank you for being with us this morning.
Asante.
How can our viewers find you on social media as well as your organization?
My name is Gregory Kiwo on Instagram, Gregory Kiwo on Facebook, and Kiwo Films on Instagram also, still as the company, and Kiwo Films as the company on Facebook also.
All right, so once again, check them out as you get to follow the conversation right here. Let me start with you, Angela. I mean, you have been gracing our screens, but there she is also here on KBC Channel 1, among many other shows that you have graced. But tell us a bit about your acting journey, how far it goes back when it started, and how things were for you when you started.
My acting journey goes way back to 2008. It started when I was an intern at Royal Media Services. And I remember, actually Charles Bukeko, the late Papa Shirandula, is the one who gave me my first on-screen opportunity. You know, you just meet someone along the corridors and you're like, hey, I can act. I don't just do continuity, I also act, you know, so. And,
what was his reaction when you say that?
I said, do you have any idea how many people walk up to me and tell me that? And then I said, just give me a chance and you'll see. So he was like, okay. So after a few days later, he called me, he's like, you said you can act. Come and act.
Come from yourself.
Yes, come and act, you know. And so I was Juma Anderson's house help. And I think I did a great job. Otherwise, they would not have had me, maintain me for a while. So, but back then, I was more of a crew and not really keen on being in front of the screen, because I remember before I went to campus, I used to act set books, and I didn't have a good experience as such. So I love acting. It's a great passion, but it wasn't really bringing, you know, money on
as
the
you
table.
hoped it would when you were joining.
Yeah, you know, when you see people on TV, you're like, oh my gosh, glam. That glam lifestyle and all that, until you join and you realize it's not. So you have to develop passion. So over the years, I've really worked on my passion. And so right now, I don't mind being either in front of the camera or behind the camera. And over the years, I've been in many productions, sometimes in front of the screen mostly. And sometimes I go back to corporate. So the journey has been like this, you know. Otherwise, I think I would be in Hollywood now. So it's been on and off. But call me anytime, tell me you have a series or a movie, I will show up.
You are
literally, I will show up. I've been on many series as, you know, small, maybe a featured role, a cameo role. But KBC, Jacqueline Lidubwe, I know she's watching because I saw her around the corner there. She's given me a major role in like 2 series. I've hosted a cooking show here on KBC. So this is like home, basically, because I've been here a lot. The latest one was Kenda Imani, which was on air until I think earlier this year.
Until recently, yeah.
Yeah, pretty recently. So also this is like home, and then there's Vashita on Maisha Magic. There's a lot of things. There's Kiwo Film, Checkmate.
I absolutely love your energy. It is so contagious. If somebody is close to you and they refuse to adapt to your energy, wambie to the left. To the left.
To the left.
To the left. But let me come to you, Greg. You know, just also looking at your journey in this film industry, how far back does it go?
For me, I started back in, I think, 2009.
Yeah.
I was supposed to, my career path was to become a pilot.
Oh, wow.
But I
how are you looking? How are you looking at? At what point did it change?
I'm very happy at the moment where I am. So it wasn't easy getting into the film industry, because I was looking at avenues whereby I can get and, you know, just be a part of, you know, the growth in the film industry. As time went on, I got an opportunity, a chance, through a guy called Kiseu. They have a company called Ken TV. Back then, they were doing a show called Tabasamu, which was on Citizen. I joined there as an intern. I used to slate, be a set runner. I was everything. I was everything on set. When I say everything, everything. So I got to major in sound, become a boom swinger, and then lighting. That's my forte at the moment. I'm a two-time award winner for best lighting for Kalasha. For me, I always say I'm a product of mentorship. I went through mentorship. So I had my first mentor was Alfleti Mgendi. Later on, Chris Royo, who at the moment is doing Selena. I got Wafula, another guy called Walter Odhiambo, who are gaffers, and Francis. They are awesome people. They are just amazing people who have impacted my career up to where I am. So I can't say it has been easy. It's been a slight growth until now, whereby I was like, I want to create, just be my own person. So I started Kiwo Films. I registered it back in 2011. And my plan then was to help people who didn't have a know-how on how to get things done. So
Specifically in the film industry or just all around?
All round.
Okay.
Before it was all round. So I started buying small equipments here there, because now being behind the scenes, I saw camera, lights, sound. I was like, I can do this. So I invested in a few things, and now I was encouraging like young people who had just something to say in terms of doing films or any small project, music videos, you know, poems. Back then YouTube wasn't a big thing.
As it is.
Yes, as it is right now. So that's how I got now into creating content for people. And as I went on growing now, I got more professional in terms of now understanding what I wanted to do and giving a voice to now my work. The trajectory at the moment where we're going in terms of the film industry, I want to be part of the people who are making a change in the language, in setting those templates in terms of the foundation of the film industry. I would like to be a part of that, and that's why I'm, you know, in it for until the end.
All the way.
So. Yes, all the way.
I love it. And we'll be getting to how we can just try to make that a reality for the entire industry.
Yes.
But let me come back to you, Angie. You know, Greg has clearly put it that, you know, it hasn't been a bed of roses, at least for him, walking this industry from back then when you started up until today. But also we want to hear from you as a creative who has actually been in that space, getting to do all these different gigs, both on TV, on different stages, voicing here and there. How has it been for you? And just speak candidly, honestly, from your own experience.
From, I'll give my personal experience.
Yes.
You know, back then when I started, it wasn't easy. There was a lot of who do you know in the industry, and a lot of things that were involved in casting. I remember when Papa Shondala gave me a role, I was like, this was easy. You know, I didn't even need to audition. So I had that kind of mentality.
It was easy to come in.
It was easy to come in. But now when I got an opportunity to be in another series, because I remember I talked to my friend, I will not mention it. I talked to my friend and he said, I will write for you a role because I know you're very talented. Because I was like, I really need to be back on TV again. And to be on TV, like doing a major role. So he wrote a role that was specific for me, with me in mind. Yeah, those things happen even in Kenya.
Yeah.
And so on the day of the audition, he made sure I was the only one there. And I auditioned, but when I was leaving the room, the producer said, you know, she's very good, she acts really good, but she's dark-skinned. I don't want a dark-skinned person for this particular role. I think you're introducing this as your daughter and you're dark, but I want, maybe the mother is light-skinned. And then she realized that I had. So she turned and she was like, sorry, I know there's nothing you can do much about your skin, but it's just, I don't like your skin color. And so when Greg...
Regardless of your talent.
Regardless of my talent, she did not have a problem with my talent. And so when they cast me in Checkmate, and there was that line where the casting director actually says, she's dark. You know, and he doesn't know this story. He's probably hearing it for the first time now. I was like, this is so close home, because I've actually missed roles because I was dark. Like, if it was talent or any other thing, I would not have felt bad, because along the way there are other reasons why I've missed out on roles. I didn't fit in, or the person thinks they can't work with me, or, you know, those other roles are okay. I can change that. If the problem is maybe discipline or maybe those ones are easy to change. It's just you focus yourself and you say, like this. If it's acting, it's easy to change. You just sharpen your acting skills and then you go back better. But if it's something like skin color or something, you know, like body size or something like that, then it's very hard. And I remember I went back to corporate. The way I was saying my acting life has been like this, I literally went back to corporate. I didn't even want to be behind the TV like scenes. I just wanted to do my communication degree, just use it somewhere in corporate field because I'm done. Like I was done. If I'm going to be cast out because of something I can't change, I'm really done. I don't judge people in the entertainment industry when they bleach. Sometimes it's the only way out.
And
but
do you
for
think
me, it
that
wasn't.
do you think that has been brought about with the way we look at film and the fact that it's not as appreciated in Kenya and even in Africa as a continent? We look at the West and think that is how it should be. That is the ideal that we should put on our TV. Do you think that has affected even how we do things here back home?
To some point it has, because then the cameras initially they were made for light-skinned people. You know, it's obvious they came from the West. So I remember also being told that it's gonna be hard to light me, which was weird because over the years, I mean, in Vashita, I'm a best friend of an Indian chick. Like we are always in the same scene together, and I've never had anyone complain. Even when Greg was lighting us in his movie, like I didn't hear anyone complain that it's hard to light you. So to some point, because of the equipment that was made in the West, that was specifically for light-skinned people, but over the years, people have practiced, people have gone deeper in their skills, and they know how to work it out. So basically, someone who tells me they don't know, it's going to be hard to light me, I think you're just being lazy. Because with male actors, I don't see a problem if they are dark, because there's this tall, dark, and handsome. But I think, over the years, people, even nowadays, I'm not really scared of being judged from not being on a scene. I've had productions where the producers were like, they wanted dark-skinned people, because actually this one started when Hollywood productions came to Kenya, and when they were filming, they were like, my friends who are light-skinned were missing out on jobs. Because they're told you're not Kenyan enough.
Oh, wow.
So I think that also kind of changed. Yeah, it changed the mindset, because now us guys are the ones who are being appreciated more. So yeah, over the years, things have changed. But in the beginning, it was a bit tough for some of us.
When you were starting. And Greg, coming to you, looking at this perception that is in the industry about what should be the ideal that should be put in front of a camera, in front of any production, in front of TV, or even any stage. What do we need to change that mentality to just make sure that this industry is as accommodative for everyone who's in this creative space, who is so misunderstood, and yet they have such genuine intentions when it comes to expressing their creative sides?
I can say at the moment that is changing gradually. In terms of, I can talk about just the YouTube platform, because now what it has done, it has enabled everyone who has something to say or make a film, they're able to just post it and people are able to consume it at no, let's say, not really price, but you can access any content you want. Like in terms, if you wanted a comedy, if you wanted an action film, if you wanted a drama, telenovela, YouTube has just leveled that playing field. Before it was more of you can consume only what we see on TV, which is more of the mentality. Yes, only what we give you. So for me, like the time we grew up in terms of, you know, the bold and beautiful, the young and the restless, These Are Our Lives. That's the type of content we used to consume then, until now, the Mexican soaps which came, you know, The Gardener's Daughter, Woman in Red, and stuff like that. As time has continued to change, I can say the field is changing also, with YouTube, with the small platforms like Instagram, whereby you can put a short clip and people can consume it. With the many young comedians coming up on TikTok and other platforms, I think it's really changing that playing field. So also the mentality of the Kenyans, it's changing slowly. Before, I can say, since when the time of cinema, when I go back to cinema, we didn't have a culture of going to the cinemas. Also in terms of us as a nation, we don't consume our own content, our own products in terms of even music, even you have people who are creating maybe fashion styles. People don't go and buy that. They wait to see it on the fashion walks, and then now they're like, I'm Kenyan,
kumbe,
you know, hey, kumbe, yeah, it's good to be, you know, to wear this attire, it's good to have this and that. So I can say in terms of, as a nation, in terms of an identity, we're still trying to find our language. We don't have a language yet, even musically. We have Gengeton, we have Sauti Sol, we have a few people here there, but we can't say like we still have that language. Same in film. But with the new now incentive in terms of the KFC, the program they've rolled out for, you know, even Cinema Mashinani, people are going back and telling those stories, like our stories, which I hope will come into fruition as they continue. As they said, it's a stimulus program. So money has been given out to filmmakers, a few individuals here there, who are to create films which are talking about us, which are our stories. And that's a really good progress for me. That's a thumbs up.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to see how that goes. Yeah.
And actually, glad you've actually mentioned that whole content acquisition program that is being put in place by the KFC, because the CEO, Mr. Timo Wase, mentioned it, but you know, as a creative in the industry, it's reassuring to hear a creative talk about it, because we always have trouble when it comes to the implementation process of all these beautiful policies that we have in the country.
Yes.
Well, we are talking about the film industry, getting to understand how things have been journeying to where we are today. We have two fantastic creatives with us in studio this morning. We want to take a very quick break. We'll be right back to continue with this discussion. So wherever you're watching us from, keep talking to us. I'll be sampling your views when we come back. Use the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter and at Jane Wamboy. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I'm here on business.
Not interested.
Funny. I always thought you wanted corner gym. But if you're really not interested, so? Are you willing to buy the gym should Julia decide to sell it?
What's his problem?
Exactly.
Imagine shock yangu nilipoingia kwa nyumba yangu nikapata a stranger sitting there.
I've been trying to find out why he would leave the gym to me. And Chorus, what do you remember about him?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Since the abolition of slavery, background mass has been working hard. I can't breathe and I don't want to. I'm gonna change the world, that's all I wanna do. I see me, I feel love from a distance. War, come my way. Anything that you want, oh my love, I'm gonna give you one with just two sweet reggae. I'm gonna give you love, I'm gonna give you love.
On the next episode of
Mimi hata sina shida na huyu, nina shida na haka mimi.
Mzee Masudi, we, tuheshimiane. Ili wewe ona mimi nauza watu, sio?
Wewe mtu wa mimi mwenyewe nina miaka 18, nina passport, nina ID. Kwa mimi ni mtu mzima. Upo? Zuena.
Sasa unataka nini wewe? Unataka nini?
Unaniaibisha yule. Zuena, mbona unaniaibisha hivyo wewe?
Hatujali kazi zenu
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Teacher, you are not understanding.
Some of you are about to have the worst day of your pathetic lives.
And who gave you the right to speak to people like that?
You guys, leave me alone. I don't know you anymore.
Can we talk privately?
Leave me alone.
Ah, you guys focus, eh?
I have a billion you can be a lily vanengai.
We are trying to focus here.
No singing in this classroom. Classmates, let's start
Saturday on KBC.
Just 8 a.m. Before we continue with that interesting interview about film, let's just take a look at what is happening on our roads in terms of traffic. Now, you can remember earlier when I was showing you images of Manyanja Road, because today our focus is trying to see the already complete projects by Kura and Kenha and try to see how that has been impacting traffic, if at all they're still serving its purpose, because the main reason is just reducing the traffic flow. Now, this is an image of Outer Ring Road. This is actually how it is looking like as of now, as we speak. Look at this. Barely any kind of heavy traffic. Now, this road was expanded, making it a super highway because of just the kind of estates, just like Jogoo Road, a number of numerous estates. And not forgetting the kind of businesses as well along this highway, a number of them. Talk about the small-scale businesses, large-scale businesses, companies as well, some industries here and there along this route. So this is why it was expanded, to make it easy for pedestrians, make it easy for vehicles as well. And look, it just looks like really it served its purpose. So I keep mentioning to you that anytime we talk about these roads, this is why, they're still ongoing with this project. And also, again, we are still sporting the same thing I keep talking about, the NMT, or if you may, the non-motorized transport system. Just from what you're seeing on this image, we already have a designated lane for pedestrians, and there at the center we have one for cyclists, and the main road which caters for both public as well as private vehicles. So this is how it is looking like in terms of traffic. Barely any kind of heavy traffic right now. So it looks like, again, just served its purpose. So how about we just take a look at the map there, try to see if at all, things are changing here and there, because also, again, traffic changes every single minute. But look at this. Really just looks like, just what I mentioned, moving pretty fast, green all through, coming all the way from Mombasa Road as well as a bit of Embakasi. There's just a slight snarl up next to Feather Estate on both lanes, but I mentioned just a slight snarl up, so it means that it's actually moving. Past that, coming all the way still through Outer Ring Road as you head over to Thika Superhighway, because this specific highway comes from Mombasa Road and it goes all the way to Thika Road. So clearly one of those instrumental roads or highways, if I can mention. And coming from those specific routes that I just mentioned, moving pretty fast as you head over to the other side of Thika Superhighway, not forgetting the fact that Outer Ring Road branches to a number of roads. It branches to Jogoo Road, which we're looking at it in a bit, as well as Manyanja Road, which we looked at, goes all the way to Juja Road as well, branches actually off there, and it goes all the way to Thika Superhighway. Now, still sticking with that, with the same road, the same highway, moving pretty fast next to the roundabout there on the other side of Juja Road, again, moving pretty fast, barely any kind of heavy traffic build-up, just on some specific areas where there's a bit of a traffic snarl, but even at that, moving at a really, really fast pace. Although one of the things that I just noted is that actually a number of small-scale traders tend to use, this designated lanes for cyclists as well as pedestrians, sometimes making it hard, because then when they use that, it forces the same pedestrians and the same cyclists to get back to the roads. So again, leading to the heavy kind of traffic. And one of the things that a good number of Kenyans are saying is that, yes, in as much as we are doing all of this, but we need to sensitize people more on the importance of this NMT. But when it comes back to traffic, moving pretty fast on that specific route, now coming to a bit of Jogoo Road again, just past the roundabout, or what used to be the Donholm roundabout, again, traffic beginning to slightly build up there, and that has been well indicated by the orange color there. But even at that, is still moving at a pretty fast pace past that specific area. On the other lane, as you leave the City Stadium roundabout, coming all the way to the other side of Jogoo Road, also moving really fast, and barely any kind of heavy traffic build-up. But just next to the Uchumi supermarket, that is just where it is not moving at all. Now, this is that specific area, and we can see that with that maroon color. On that area, it's not moving. But around this place, it is one of those busy spaces or busy areas, because it is next to Uchumi supermarket. It is a bus terminus, not forgetting also the kind of estates around this route. So also there, just a slight snarl up. But also, the beauty of that is that it is only specifically on the lane that is coming to the CBD. On the other side, though, moving pretty fast, barely any kind of traffic. So also it means that if you're coming from city center through Jogoo Road, going to all these places I've mentioned, then it's just a smooth sailing for you. But if you're coming to the CBD, then you have to make do with that traffic there. But let's look at this one last road, which is one of the earmarked minor roads inside the estates, which has been earmarked for expansion. This is Lunga Lunga Road. It also branches off from what used to be the Donholm roundabout. Look at this. Just look at that. Heavy kind of traffic. And it is actually on both lanes. Now you understand why when I tell you that this is again one of those roads that has been earmarked for an expansion. It's because of specifically that. In terms of activities, not quite a number of them, but in as much as yes, there's that, at least there's quite a number of industries and some companies along this route, and also the number of estates, not quite a number of them. The stretch of this road is also not that big of a stretch, but it also oftentimes serves as a good alternative route for those that are coming from Donholm, those that are coming from Jogoo Road, wanting to go to Mombasa Road, and they do not want to make with the traffic sometimes along Outer Ring Highway on the other side. So this is why it will also, it has been earmarked for an expansion. So again, it means that if you're coming from Donholm, then you may just have to go through with the Jogoo Road, because along this specific route, the kind of traffic right now, really unbearable. And it looks like it's just changing and not changing for the better, but for the worst. So this is how it's looking like in terms of traffic this morning. And as I had mentioned, our focus is just specifically on the already completed projects by Kura and Kenha, which has been Outer Ring, Jogoo Road, as well as Manyanja Road. This is how it's looking like this hour.
Thank you, Ms. D, for that update. Be sure to tune in again at 9 a.m. for another update before you get to leave the house, if you haven't. But in the meantime, the hashtag to use on Twitter is Good Morning Kenya. My handle is Boy across all the socials. Tag me on those questions or comments. I will be sampling them in a bit. I see them and appreciate you so much for sending them through. But before we get to that, let me just get back to this conversation. Remember, we're talking about the film industry, and today we get to hear from the actual stakeholders in this industry, understanding the value chain and how far we have come as a country. And I just want to come back to you, Gregory. He is Gregory Kiwo, the CEO of Kiwo Films, if you are just joining us. He also doubles up as a film director. And off air, we were just casually talking about, how creatives are not benefiting from, situations where a project that they worked on years ago has been resold and is now currently showing. And when it comes to trying to formalizing the industry, making sure that it is streamlined, we have organizations that represent the good for the creatives, how far are we doing, and what more can we do to just ensure that creatives are earning from what they did, in as much as it was a decade ago, 2 decades ago, and it's still on air?
Well, it starts with before film, as the film industry has been there. Mm-hmm. Has been there, and it's we can say it's slowly growing.
Yes.
But in order for it to continue growing, when COVID happened, it stopped everything on its tracks.
Yeah.
So right now, when we're going back to creating and KFC are rolling out these things, we need to first stop and create these bodies that can help us move forward. Let's say, for example, when we're talking about contracts, mm-hmm. if most of the creatives and the crew people, when they sign contracts in our contracts sometimes are not legally binding.
Yeah, they're just
most
like word of mouth.
Word of mouth, like you did this and that. So when it comes, like, for example, Checkmate, where we're talking about getting paid, you find if you take that contract and try to take the person who hasn't paid you, the producer mm-hmm. or the production company which hasn't paid you, to go and follow up on, like, legally, I want my money, you find things do not work your way, or nothing ever happens, mm-hmm. You never get paid. Sometimes you find we sign contracts which are just, they look out on the other end, but they don't look after you as the creator, as the crew, as the cast. When you sign a contract, like most of the contracts which are abroad, if you do a project, let's say in 2020, and it's sold in 2021 or 2022 to another, let's say, broadcast, or it's sold abroad.
That is different from what was intended for initially.
Yes, you're supposed to earn from that as the crew and as the cast. But most of the people don't know that. You know, you sign just a one-off contract whereby you earn only from that one time, where when the project is done, you're done with that project. It goes back to you as a person just to look at for yourself, whereby you sign a contract for the company and you make sure you have your own contract. Same in place also for bodies like unions. We need unions for crew, whereby you have directors, the script writers, you have for gaffers, camera people, and then we have the one for the cast, I think. So, which I think also it's trying to do their best for the cast, the actors and the actresses. But in terms of crew, it's an open sea. Like, we don't know if you are to take your grievances in terms of if you haven't been paid as a cameraman, where do you go to? There's no union which covers you on that front, you see. So we need to start unions. As a film industry, we need to come together. The other thing about people in the film industry, we don't have that togetherness. You put out a film, the people who are supposed to support you, they're the ones who come to criticize you, you know. Oh, you should have done this, you should have done that, you should have done it this way. Yeah, I think also it goes back to us as people, our mentality. We're not proud and happy about our own people. We would rather like talk about how Tyler Perry is doing other than how us as a people we are doing.
How Kiwo Films are doing.
How Kiwo Films is doing, or the next person who's creating is doing. So it's us to hold our hands together as an industry and say, let's make these changes, you know.
Let's bring these changes that we want.
Yes.
And there's actually Peter Mwema on Twitter who's saying it's a high time Kenyans consume our Kenyan films because it is the only way we are going to uplift the industry. I am a filmmaker and I know how it feels when someone produces a film and it is not watched. It is absolutely demotivating. Thank you for that. And let me come to you, Angela. Looking at the fact that, you know, now looking at the audience, you have put your all in this character. Yet you step in full character. And sometimes you find yourself still in character. And then it is put together, put out there for the audience to watch, but it's not as appreciated. What can we do to encourage a watching culture in the society, especially to consume local productions?
There's something that Greg said, that you produce something, you put it out there, and actually criticism is not bad. There's normally positive criticism,
constructive,
like constructive. Yeah, like you should have done this instead of that. That's not good. That's not bad. But the thing is, when the people in the same industry, they start fighting you. So that one is normally bad because, you know, as an actor, I've acted, I've given it my all, it's been editing. Sometimes something went wrong in the editing or sometimes something went wrong in the directing. But every film that goes out there, I learned not to talk bad about any program or TV film because I know the kind of work that goes through, the kind of finance, the kind of emotions that goes through even if it's a 4-minute, you know, film or TV show or a mini-series. I've been a crew and I've been an actor. So believe me, I know how much it takes to even produce something that's 3 minutes. So I never talk bad about any film.
You know what goes on behind
because
the curtains.
I know the kind of sacrifices that people have to make to put that out. So it's usually very bad if you put that out and then someone is fighting you. And usually sometimes it comes from the people in the industry. Either we auditioned for the same role and I'm the one who got it. So you find like a fellow actor going to say, she's not even a good actor. Yesterday she was nini. Kwanza alikuwa fake ni aje. Nani alidirect you show? I think shida ilikuwa ni yeye. You know, you hear such comments and they go out to the public and you're like, no.
They discredit
you know,
your
the
talent.
public is not supposed to be hearing this. This is our fight. This is in-house fighting. You felt bad because you didn't get the role. Don't fight me in public. You know, this should be between us. And I would like to say, initially, Kenyans were not really into local, you know, and watching local shows and stuff like that. And it was, utenda kunyumba mtu tapata and I watch, you know, the Mexican soap operas that he was saying. It's not bad.
It was actually
or Nigerian
weird to find
movie.
them watching a Kenyan sitcom.
You could not. Tena mtu anakuambia point blank, me I don't watch local TV. Why should I watch local TV? And I'm like, because I'm in it. Does that not mean anything to you? Like, I'm in it, and you know me. So, but I've seen that culture changing. A lot of people are watching local. Okay, I would say Maisha Magic has tried to make people, you know, watch.
And KBC.
And KBC wachana na mashinani na kwanga celeb ni aje.
Sisi ni mama yao. We are the dawn.
Hey, I go somewhere, they're like, Mama Bella. Hey, KBC ikona following mahali.
Yeah.
I go there, no one will touch me because they see me. So there, people are starting to watch local channels, and then there's like our stuff that's online. What Greg was saying before, YouTube. You know, there's so many shows that post the links on YouTube. The Showmax. There's some that are coming on Netflix, and so nowadays I'm seeing there's a bit of a culture about people, you know, watching local shows. You can go around and you get noticed. Why? Because people are starting to embrace local. They had stopped by they'll be like, Kenyan things are fake, me, I can't watch. And I'm like, you see Nigerians, they come here in Kenya, they will watch Africa Magic or whatever thing that has their show. They will listen to their music. It does not matter if they're in Kenya or they're not in Kenya. They embrace, and that's why filming industry might be doing better there than here. It's doing better there because they embrace their own. So right now, the culture should proceed. When films are having premiere, like they're shown on cinema, I always love to encourage. Like I see the way Kenya film, they're coming over. The ICT, Minister for ICT is always coming over. You know, when a politician also goes to a premiere, it speaks a lot because then people get to hear, you know, people get to know, why was Nani there? Why was this politician there? So if also the government would embrace that, like when politicians are coming to the premiere or what, or even Uhuru will be like at the stadium addressing people, is like, you know, that chick from Sijui Antipos, Sijui from which shows, Sijui Kina, people from like, all news anchors are talking about them, then people will be like, why was the president mentioning this character on TV? Where is it found?
That screening culture.
Yeah, so that will also be.
All right.
If that improves, then I think we'll go. But we're on our way. We're not doing bad. I can't complain. We're not doing bad.
And speaking of being on our way, I want us to now get to this most recent project that is Checkmate, and it heavily focuses on creatives earning from their creative abilities. And let me start with you, Angela. When you were part of this crew, how close was it to home in terms of bringing your reality to the rest of the public to understand what you go through? Kwende kwa TV wanadhani it's all glitz and glam, and kumbe on there behind the scenes somebody's taking advantage of your skill.
So I told Greg the first time I read the script, I was like, umesema ukweli mingi.
Watch a bill on your own bill.
I was relating to literally everything. You know those contracts you're saying that are not binding. Ama saa zingine upewi. And then also my line was that one of particular. I was not cast because I was dark. It was like it hit too close to home. Everything you watch on Checkmate, if you haven't watched on Checkmate, if you haven't watched Checkmate, go to YouTube now, watch it. Everything you see on that film, in fact, that's like maybe half or quarter of the things that actually go on.
Just the tip of your
People have suffered out here. What you see on TV is nothing. Kaa chini na mtu, muulize tu, you know, just sometimes because of the passion we have for this industry, we go through all those challenges, but we're like, it's okay. You can't find anything sweet if you don't actually fight for it. So we're like, we downplay it. But whatever Kyo portrayed on his film, Checkmate,
brutal reality.
A quarter of what actually happens.
All right.
You can be left like somewhere in the middle of I don't know where the producer told you you're traveling to this town to perform, and he will pay you after that, and then he disappears with your money. People are acting set books can relate to that. And you know, filming, you are told money will come, and then he or she sells the film to maybe an airline somewhere. I once saw a film on an airline that I was in, and we were never told, we never got paid. And I was like, hey, you told us this shoestring budget, this airline must have given you money. You know, it's the distributor, so that money went like that. You know, so many things have happened you wouldn't know.
All right.
But that film just portrays.
Let me come to you, Greg. You know, I got to watch it, and the end was very shocking because it's sad to feel that one person can push a group of people to doing such extremities. And I just want to hear from you, what was the thinking behind this? What drove you to putting together this piece of brutal truth?
So for Checkmate, I can say it was very difficult even putting the stories together in terms of, because I'm addressing different issues. The big factor is money, which now comes to the name Checkmate, which is a decipherment of just the word check and mate. And then colorism, of course, and then couch casting, whereby, you know, you get a role for, you know, exchanging sex to get a role. So I was addressing those three things, and I was looking at how can I tell it in a short time, because it's supposed to be a very short film. Home. Yes, and still drive the point home. Because the other thing as Checkmate can work as a series, but I was like, I want to keep it short and simple and still get the message home. So it was very difficult, just merging and compressing that story into one. That was the first difficulty, just getting everything in and making sure people get the message.
Expressing this grand idea in what? It was about 44 minutes from start to finish.
Yes. And then the other thing, having, you know, COVID has put us home, and you're inside your head, you have a lot of thoughts. And then you have those people out there owe you money. And you're in this situation whereby it's a pandemic, and you're calling people are mteja, someone has disappeared with your money. What do you do? Yes, it's crazy. So you have those crazy thoughts. I know people out there have had, like, you know, things they can do to someone who has your money, you know.
I know.
So this was one of the outcomes in the film, whereby our actors, Audiro and Brian, go ahead and just ban the producer. I'm not saying in the film that
you're not advocating for that.
Yes.
Is this
no,
the extreme
it's a
that
symbolism.
Can be pushed?
Yes, because you know you have your house being locked, you have bills to pay, you have people who you're supporting in the family, you have you know. The other thing about the industry, it's this I've said it a couple of times, is that it's the only industry whereby we are paid after delivering the goods. So you come,
as opposed to before.
And before, as a business, you come, you shoot a series, you get paid 3-4 months later. What happens in the 3-4 months? You're borrowing. You're always borrowing. So you're never out of debt. So that's the life of a creative. Everyone would relate to that, whereby, you know, you're always calling people and like, help me with this, help me with that. It gets tiring, you know. So as Checkmate, the end now is what, the middle part before the end is what happens in the people's, our creatives' heads. Like, what can I do to this person, you know? I can ban them, I can hang them, I can do this. But not all producers are bad. We have a few who are really good. They come, they pay you the rates, they pay you on time.
Your rates.
Your rates, yes. The other thing is red card in the industry. You know, we don't have red cards. There are producers who will come. We are not against people making their money. If you're given a budget of 20 million and you decide to ask me, Greg, could you come and do this job for 20,000? And I say yes. My only problem would be with you is if I do that job and you still don't give me that 20,000 we agreed on. I asked maybe for 50, you said I'll give you 20. At the end of the job, you don't give me even that 20. So that's where the problem comes in. You just
not following
robbery.
Through with the proper agreement.
Yes, proper agreement. And the other funny thing is, most of the people who we've been in the industry with, in terms of actors or crew, who end up being producers, they go and do the same thing, like
keep
they
the
were
vicious
against.
cycle going.
Yes, so it's like a cycle which is never ending. So right now we are trying to change that language, whereby that how do we call it? That injustice, whereby this cycle is always happening to creatives. You're never ever getting paid on time. You're never being paid your rates. Sometimes there's no money coming in. So we're trying to stop that. Like moving forward, we're like, let's stop this. You know, pay me whatever little you've said you'll pay me.
And
pay
see
me
it
on
through,
time. Yes, and see it through.
All right.
Yes.
Now, speaking of just changing the narrative, we're almost out of time, and I want to just hear from you, Angela. Looking at, you know, not from the creative's point of view, and, you know, taking responsibility as the one who is putting forth this craft, understanding the industry, what do we as creatives need to do to just make sure that we respect the craft? Starting there, we stop with these corridor conversations and 20K sasa, word of mouth. We avoid such corridor conversations and go to like a clearly written out contract that has fine print, stipulates everything, respecting the industry. As creatives, what do we need to do? Very briefly.
As creatives, first we need to be professional. When you're professional, you not have these small issues or this going around the corner. I know of a producer, Lucy, who actually takes a loan to pay the cast members, and then she's the one who's going to go back to the client and follow up with the payment, because she respects the craft. She respects that you're going to come every day, and she respects that you've not had a job for a while. Because when we do freelance, you do not have a job every day. You don't have a salary at the end of the month. So if she calls you for a job, she knows either or not, mostly you've not been working, and so she'll give you the money. So it's your turn to give your end of the bargain. So yeah, so it's when you put in professionalism and you respect the craft, we'll not have these issues, you know, lying around. We'll just respect everyone, respect their spaces, respect the hard work they're putting. Let it be said that you were the one who didn't honor your end of the bargain. But yeah, don't throw it to the producer, because I know of good producers, like he said.
Okay, and even you as a creative, in terms of packaging yourself, in terms of making sure you have reels when they're needed, you have demos, you have voice samples if needed, in terms of showing up on time, because we also tend to
takes me back to professionalism, because you know, like actors all over abroad, like even now we have Kenya Actors Guild, where people are always encouraged to like do a show reel and, you know, post it on YouTube or wherever. There's some actors who've gotten international gigs, and they're Kenyan because they got they watched Kenyan actors, you know what, website and stuff like that. So also as an actor, you need to package yourself. Otherwise you'll be complaining that you're not visible, but it's because you don't have something as simple as a show reel. I'm still working on mine.
You're not investing in yourself.
Yeah, you should invest in yourself. IMDb, you know, go on IMDb, those platforms where like actors are put out there. And you know, when you go somewhere, that is professionalism. In that sense, it's professionalism. If you don't package yourself, don't complain if people don't respect your craft. Because even a portfolio, you know, models have portfolios, and you wonder why they always get all these gigs, because they have that, you know.
Coming back to you, Gregory, in terms of also looking at that now, you are mostly behind the scenes, and you know, you ensure quality is not compromised when it comes to visuals and sound. Also, when it comes to investing in the resources and infrastructure that is needed, so that when you're putting together a production, it's also of good quality. It does not be criticized, because even you want to be appreciated, and yet you're not putting forth good work. Quality in the production bit. Very briefly, as we get to wind up.
At the moment, as a country, we're not struggling in terms of the quality, because we have equipments coming in. Funny thing, we have the best crew members in Kenya. People are well trained in Kenya. We have some of the best people who are skilled. It's just people also putting in effort in their profession. Like you go back and you invest in yourself. If you're a cameraman, go out there, buy a lens, buy that camera kit. If you're a lighting person, go out there and buy that lighting kit, whatever small it is. In terms of just talking about also investing back in ourselves, I can say it goes back to mentorship also. If you're, this is a call to everyone who's been trained by really good professionals and they've grown in the industry, to go back and train the people who are coming up in the industry. Don't be looking at a person who's left uni, or they're training themselves to do that film, and you're always criticizing them, telling them, not helping. The lighting was bad, the sound was bad, the cameras were bad. What you can do is just go back and take time and put skill in them, in that you're mentoring them. So mentorship plays an important role. That's what we're doing at Kiwo Films. We're going back and taking in people and mentoring them in different departments. So it's imparting skill to the next filmmakers.
Awesome. And that is what we're all about, just bringing a generation that is better than you. Know, my dad always says, make sure that your children live a better life than you did. And it goes full circle. Whatever industry you are in, if you have gotten a number of years of experience, a worth of experience, pay it forward. You know, and it's not always about gaining from it. Sometimes just paying forward. Anasemanga tenda mema, nenda zako. It will just catch up with you. So if you are in this creative space and you are in a position to build another creative who is struggling, but you can clearly see they have the passion, the zeal, and they want to put forth this skill that they have, help them grow. And at the end of the day, you'll be surprised how it will just, the universe reciprocates. The universe listens and it reciprocates. We have to bring this conversation to a close, and I can see Peter Mwema again tweeting saying, I love how the guests have expounded on the issue of local content And I concur, just as the way my lecturer for film, Professor Karubu Mureithi, told us, let Kenyans consume Kenyan films and the industry will grow. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Thank you so much, Gregory Kiwo. He is the CEO of Kiwo Films, also doubles up as a film director. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate you. And on the other side of studio, we have Angela Nancy. Angela with a J and Nancy with an I-E at the end. She is an absolutely amazing creative, so check her out on social media. Get to see all the different projects that they have been involved in. That brings a close to this particular segment of Lifestyle here on Good Morning Kenya, but we are not yet done. We have more Good Morning Kenya coming up in a break, so do stay with us. More after this messages, as some would say. Stay with us.
This Wednesday on KBC Channel 1.
You're not the only one who thinks that. If that were so, I would ask the police myself to go find him until we can clear this matter up.
Ramon? Zenaida!
It's him.
Put the speaker on, put it on, and calm down. Just relax. Calm down and make sure to talk to him.
In love with Ramon.
I see me, I feel love from a distance. What? Come my way. Anything that you want, oh my love, I'm gonna give you it with just two sweet reggae. I must see close, Valentine. I will them find time for hang out.
Next on.
It is highly unlikely that one would catch COVID-19 from food or food packaging. COVID-19 is a respiratory condition and it is mostly spread through droplets.
Data from UNESCO shows that half of learners worldwide do not have a household computer, while in sub-Saharan Africa alone, 89% do not have computers and 82% lack access to the internet. As schools shifted to online learning, one man in Nigeria has found a way of ensuring that students from disadvantaged backgrounds are able to continue learning remotely like their more privileged peers.
How are you doing this morning? So good to see you.
On the next episode.
Including all communities in growing the country's food basket has been a priority in President Uhuru Kenyatta's development agenda. The livestock keepers of the arid lands in northern Kenya, who have now embraced farming, are standing to be counted.
Wakati tunaanza ilimaliza kujenga hii greenhouse, tulianza kupanda haba kwa nyanya.
This week on Project 254.
Shamba hiyo unafaa sisi sana, sababu yake ile matunda yanatoka sisi na peleka soko.
Watch it on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. only on KBC.
Na msibabaishwe na yale mnayowapitia, hata yawe magumu kiasi gani, yote yatapita. La msingi ni kuweka tumaini letu kwa Mungu aliyetuumba. Katika kitabu cha Warumi 5:3, wala si hivyo tu, ila mnafurahia.
Kupata dhiki huleta zaburi. Bonyeza *811 *963#. Bonyeza *811 *963#.
every top of the hour, we make sure that we give you an update of what is happening on our roads in terms of traffic. So a quick look along, where do we start now? Let's start with the Jogo Road. So a quick look on what is happening on that specific route, because remember that you're trying to just combine all the three roads along this route, and it looks like nothing has changed there in terms of traffic, but not that, at least not that heavy, moving pretty fast on this specific route, and especially pretty fast only on the lane that is leaving CBD as you head over to the estates, which is, you know, expected because there's barely any kind of activities on those specific lanes. On the other one, so a bit of a slight traffic snarl, because we can just see from our map at least the major parts of this route moving at a really fast pace. Again, heavy traffic build-up or not moving at all, if I can say that, on this specific area, which is again just next to the footbridge there, as well as also next to Uchumi supermarket. But if you can remember, I told you earlier why on that area there's normally heavy kind of traffic. So it's because it's next to a supermarket, it's next to a bus terminus, quite a number of activities there. But in terms of alternative routes, you can use this one as your alternative just before you get to the city stadium roundabout, branching off to this Kamaina intersect there and coming next to Bahati Estate, going all the way on this route next to the first Avenue Isili, and this will lead you all the way to Juja Road, actually coming through all this stretch, because oftentimes there's barely any kind of heavy traffic along Juja Road. So that is one of those routes you can use there as an alternative. But if you're past Uchumi, then you may just have to make do without traffic there, because then past Uchumi supermarket there's no any other alternative route. So that means you just have to go all the way to the city center with that kind of heavy traffic build-up. So how about we look at the other road in which was our focus this day, because if you can remember, I told you earlier we're trying to look at how the already complete projects of Kura and Kenha are doing to try and see if at all they're serving its purpose, because the whole idea is just reduce on the traffic flow. So let's just briefly take a look at Manyanja Road, and it just looks like how it looked like, you know, in the first couple of link-up segments. We have Alia Road, barely any kind of heavy traffic. So when I say barely any kind of heavy traffic, it does not negate the fact that there is traffic. It just means that in as much as yes, there's traffic, but it is a manageable kind of traffic, which ultimately also means that you may not have to stay long on the roads if at all you're going to the city center or going about your businesses. And this has been well indicated by the orange color there. So yes, there's traffic, but a manageable kind of traffic. But then again, this is also on both lanes. Earlier on, there was, you know, there was nothing like this. It was just moving pretty fast, at least on the lane that is leaving again city center as you head over to the estate. So ultimately it just means that, you know, all these projects are just serving its purpose, because oftentimes in this time of in this time of the morning, we will just be seeing, you know, not moving at all, moving at a pretty slow pace, but clearly as of now, at least it's moving fast. So along Outer Ring Road, again, on the other road in which we're trying to focus on this morning, it is so unlike what is happening along Juja Road as well as Manyanja Road, because on this specific one, this is now Outer Ring Road. It is just moving at a really fast pace next to Feather Estate, again on the other side, coming all the way from Mombasa Road, because as I had mentioned, Outer Ring Road is a road that begins all the way from Mombasa Road, goes all the way to Thika Superhighway, branches off to a number of roads, quite a number of roundabouts as well, and also some sleep and minor roads along this highway. So coming all the way from Feather, that's just where there's a bit of a gridlock, and a heavy kind of gridlock at that matter. Next to Pipeline as well, also a bit of a gridlock there, actually a bit unlike, you know, the one at Feather area. So also if you're coming from these routes, you know, you have to make do with that traffic, because there's also no alternative route there. And this is actually for totally heading all the way to the city center. But also the beauty is that there's only traffic on the lane that is coming to the city center through this road. On the other side, though, again, leaving places such as Jogo, Juja Road, Manyanja Road, Donholm, or if at all you're leaving city center coming to the estates through Outer Ring Road, also a smooth sailing for you, barely any kind of heavy traffic. Just as you head over to the city center, that is just where there's more of the heavy kind of traffic. In fact, in some parts, it's not even moving at all. But then again, if you're heading to the CBD from Outer Ring Road, what I can advise is that you can come all the way with Outer Ring Road, then branch off to Juja Road instead of Jogo Road, because along Juja Road there's normally, at least in this hour, and we can just check there a bit, you know, the kind of traffic, it's often not, you know, that kind of unbearable kind of traffic. And also the beauty is that throughout Outer Ring Highway, it's not, I mean, there's no traffic at all. That's why you're seeing that green color. So it just means it's moving at a pretty fast pace. So this route in which I was saying you can use as an alternative route if you're coming to the city center, which is Juja Road, if at all you're using Outer Ring. Again, yes, there's traffic, but it's not that bad compared to how we have seen along Jogo Road. Because then again, also remember, I told you Jogo Road is one of those roads where the kind of estates along that route, quite a number of them. So clearly you can use that as an alternative route. And also Juja Road serves as a very, very good alternative route just next to the Pangani Girls High School, and that intersect there, especially for those that ply Thika Super Highway coming to the city center. So clearly that is how it is looking like at this hour. As I had mentioned, we are just trying to see some of the projects that have been completed by, you know, all these bodies, trying to see if at all they're serving its purpose. And it clearly look, it's not really that bad at all. So again, as I kept mentioning, all the remaining projects will continue to keep tabs with them to try and see how they are doing and how they are serving their purpose when it comes to matters traffic reduction. But as of now, this is how it's looking like in terms of traffic.
Part of the show this far. I've just realized it's 30 minutes past the hour. I usually have this reminder on my phone. Such are the times. Okay? Such are the times. But we are glad that you're watching us today. Thank you for your company and your time this far. Welcome to The Viewpoint with me, Samuel Njoroge. We'll be looking at the key political stories of the day. You know what we're talking about, right? Article 261 will form part and parcel of this discussion. But guess what? I've just been reunited with a friend of mine. I'm talking about Joseph Simeha. He's with us right here in studio. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, thank you. This is some kind of handshake.
You know? Yeah.
We should have a BBI out of this.
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too.
Is it political commentator, strategist? Has it grown to something?
No. I still remain an analyst. I am a strategist in, somewhere else. But for this purpose, I remain an analyst. For purpose of public education information, I remain an analyst.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to see you,
yeah.
sir.
Good to see you. You grew a beard.
Finally. Finally. So talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1. Let us know what your thoughts are in regard to the conversation that we're beginning right now, and also have your say, all right? Ask your question, and that will form part and parcel of our discourse today. I'd just like to begin with the front page of the Star, and particularly draw your attention to this photo here. It's worth 1,000 words. Now here, these are the Jubilee headquarters right here in Pangani, and yesterday, the Deputy President showed up. Surprise visit, that is what the Star is calling it, a surprise visit there. However, party bosses snubbed this particular visit. Yes, the conversation is, all is well. Is it, Simeha?
All is well, because which other party boss? He's a party boss himself. So he was there as a party boss. So I don't think that he needed other party bosses.
Yeah.
He is the boss.
The argument here now, as we coined the political headline, is that kina Murathe hawakua, Tuju hawakua, yet the deputy, actually he's the
deputy
party
leader
of, yes, of the Jubilee Party was in the building.
Yes.
Should that send any signal?
No, I don't think it should send any signal, because he is the deputy party leader. He's quite a boss, actually, just next to the boss of bosses, the Don Collion himself.
Nice.
So he's second in command, and he was there. I don't think it necessarily needs these other small people like Murathe and others. Yeah, but on a serious note, given also, I mean, that was serious, but given also what's been happening in Jubilee, they may have felt uncomfortable to be around, or it could have been a coincidence. I know, as you say, we read so much into what we see.
Yes.
When we see a picture or a photo like that, we read so much into it. May have been a coincidence. They may have avoided, because it's true, it's in the public domain, the tensions within the Jubilee Party. Some people may feel uncomfortable being in the same space at the same time.
Yes.
It's possible.
And also, interestingly, when you look at the ODM party, back in 2017, they were friends of Maraga, let me say that, because they said, you know what, you have upheld the constitution, nullified a presidential election. But yesterday, we saw them condemn this Chief Justice for, you know, asking the president to dissolve parliament because it has been unable to enact legislation to realize the two-thirds gender rule. Is this a case of doublespeak?
I'm not aware that the ODM party condemned Justice Maraga. If you just help me quickly by reminding me, like, who in ODM has said this?
Like the headline here reads that Raila supporters attacked CJ Maraga over Uhuru Kenyatta. And there were a section, other than a section of what this daily says as women leaders in ODM, a pretty section of the rest of members of parliament from ODM scathed attacks on CJ Maraga. What's happening?
You know, I think those are just like the Stars said, Raila supporters. It's not the ODM party speaking, but Raila supporters speaking and attacking the CJ, I think wrongly, and you know, it's not justified, it's not necessary. The Chief Justice did what he did, I believe, by dint of his office of the Chief Justice, not Maraga, you know, the man. Just as it is wrong to keep saying that Maraga nullified the presidential election in 2017. Maraga has never ever nullified any presidential election. He does not have the ability to do that, but the Supreme Court of the Republic of Kenya did that, nullified that election. Now, in this case, in the current case, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, you know, has transmitted this advisory to the President of the Republic of Kenya. So I have had those attacks from individual MPs and so on. What they are doing, in my opinion, is completely wrong, it's misplaced, it's unnecessary, it's like juvenile anger.
But is it really an advisory?
It's an advice, not advisory. It's the Constitution terms it as advice, that the Chief Justice shall advise the President and the President shall dissolve Parliament.
So he doesn't have an option but to dissolve?
In my reading, he does not have an option but to dissolve, but it's risky for us to limit that discussion on just those words.
Yes.
Because there's a broader context.
That's true.
Yeah, so I think it would be risky to just limit it. Here, it says shall, although Ahmed Nazir thinks shall means may. But, never mind that, maybe it's a debate for another day. But I think, to be fair to your viewers, it's better to broaden the discussion than to limit it to advise and dissolve.
Which is what I'd like us to do this morning, Simeha. You know, as much as Article 261 spells out what the CJ just did, or did a couple of days ago, it still does not give the President any time frame in terms of you will do it within this time span. And also, it does not spell out what would happen should the President not dissolve Parliament. Or does it?
No, again, to my reading, I think after this, because there was a lot of anxiety in the public domain and so on, I went back to check, just to read, to satisfy myself, just to inform myself. Yes, you are right. I don't see any time frame spelled out on by when the President must dissolve Parliament. I also don't see any say sanctions, you know, or anything that says if you don't do it within this time, this is what happened. You know, like, for example, a clause like it shall be deemed to be dissolved if you don't do it within this number of days.
Yes.
I don't see those two.
And maybe the crafters of the Constitution did that in their wisdom?
Yes, I think so. I mean, of course, the crafters, those who crafted this Constitution, did that in their wisdom. Let's remember, this Constitution was a product of a long, partly protracted, but partly highly participatory process.
Yes.
And then was handed over to a team of experts led by Nzamba Gitonga and others. And then, I think most important that I always like to remember people, it went to Naivasha, now for MPs then to have the final say on it.
Yeah.
Many times for this kind of things, when people who are in Parliament, who are many times rallied by their penchant for self-preservation. When something lands in their hands, many times, and I just speak this with all due respect to our MPs, on the basis of our experience in this country,
yes,
you can expect that what comes out will have problems.
Okay.
It will be problematic.
And talking about what comes out, let's look at what is happening right now within the political context. I saw Nelson Harvey argue the other day that if the president does not dissolve parliament, then any piece of legislation enacted by this particular National Assembly will be deemed unconstitutional. Is that true?
I do not know whether that is true. Personally, I do not agree with Harvey, but those are my very personal views. It's not an authoritative view, a professional authoritative view. No, it isn't. It's my personal views. I would go back to where all this began, because this debate is being limited to Maraga sending advice, a written advice to the president to dissolve parliament. I would go back to the article you mentioned earlier, Article 261 of the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya on consequential legislation. And there are two important sub-articles, perhaps two, just sub-article 5. First, it says if parliament fails to enact any legislation, that this constitution requires it to enact within a given time frame.
Yeah.
Because there's a schedule of legislation in the constitution for which parliament was supposed to enact after promulgation of the constitution.
Yes.
And for each of those pieces of legislation, a time frame is given. So any legislation. Secondly, if that happens, that parliament failed, and it has failed in many, for example, including in the one to provide for the minimum and maximum limits for land ownership.
Yeah.
It's in our constitution, and parliament has been given that mandate. It has failed within the time frame given. If and when that happens, then the next stage is someone can petition the High Court. Some people think Maraga has made a decision.
Yeah.
The decision maker in this case is not justice, the Chief Justice. It is the High Court that has the jurisdiction over constitutional matters. And indeed, it was petitioned. In 2015, Justice Mumbi made a decision and found that the parliament had failed Kenya and gave orders for the specific legislation that for which High Court was being petitioned was this one on the 2/3 gender principle. And she gave, I'm sorry, I forget the exact number of days, I think it was 30, within which that they must act. They didn't. The next and last one was done in 2017, and this one I remember I made a note. On the 29th of March 2017, Justice Mativo made a decision and an order.
Yeah.
Because sub-article 6 says that the High Court will make a declaration and order Parliament, give an order to Parliament. So he did do that and say that do it within 60 days. That when I say do it, I mean legislate on the 2/3 gender principle within 60 days. Parliament still didn't. So I think it's important for all this information to come into this debate.
Yeah.
Even to ask Sam, for example, when we talk about Parliament, that order was issued to the Parliament that was then in 2017. Is it this Parliament? Does it apply to the current Parliament as constituted? I don't have an answer. But I'm just saying, in these discussions, it's important that all this information finds its way in so that we inform ourselves better, we inform our viewers better.
Why do we usually, forget that this issue has been touted as progressive? And it began with the Mutunga-led bench at the Supreme Court. And that bench gave an advisory that as far as achieving the 2/3 gender is concerned, it is something that has to be realized progressively. Has time come for the nation to consider that this progression is a reality when it comes to 2/3 gender rule?
Yes, I do remember the decision, but actually that was an advisory opinion of the Supreme Court, which many have interpreted to mean a binding order, that this 2/3 gender principle, please, the people who call it a rule, please stop calling it a rule. It's the 2/3 gender principle, and it's in several articles of the Constitution. For example, outside of outside of where there's a specific requirement. I think this is at Article 27. I think this is on rights, under rights. It's also at Article 81 on the electoral system. If I had the Constitution here, I would refer to 1 or 2, 3 other places. It is the gender principle, not a rule. The Supreme Court gave that advisory that it should happen progressively. But then, when it comes to specific legislation, certain specific legislation, the High Court, first of all, the Constitution provided for certain limited time frame on which it allowed the Parliament to extend that time frame only up to a maximum of a year, but only once on every legislation, on every issue. They've run out of all those options because we've gone well beyond, we're almost at 10 years, we've gone well beyond, for most of those legislations, maximum was 5 years. We've gone well beyond, they've extended for this and that and so on. But then, on this particular gender principle, I agree with the argument I've heard from some people. I looked again at the schedule of the certain legislations that we need. I am unable up to now to find one specific one, very specific to the 2/3 gender rule. What I find is that the Constitution requires...
You meant principle.
Sorry?
The 2/3
Oh
gender
yeah,
principle.
I've just been cautioning myself. See, it's even in my... Thank you very much, Sammy. See, it's even in my psyche that I'm following on what I'm saying. It is the 2/3 gender principle. I'm yet to find a very specific provision that says enact this type of legislation to implement this. Where there are so many arguments, I think it's on the electoral system. This is at Article 81 of the Constitution. And these arguments are on numbers in the National Assembly and in the Senate. So, in my opinion, the discussion, the wrangling, and so on, has focused unfairly, narrowly on numbers. And therefore, we've been chasing after this elusive law that should enable us to have equitable numbers, male, female, in Parliament, both houses. Yet, the Constitution says other policy, legislative, and other measures, including affirmative action. We leave the substratum, the bedrock, solid as it is, intact. We come to the tail end, that is the House of Parliament. We look at numbers, we count, and then we try to come up with legislation to correct those numbers. But we retain the current electoral system that is about first past the post. I do not see how you can legislate and force people to elect either men or women. But I see how you can affect our electoral system so that the choices it gives us,
revolve around
equity. There's more equity, there's more equality in the choices that we are given.
Let's take a break, Simeha. When we return, we'll be looking at what you've just said. The choices we present, or the choices presented to us, give us an option to choose equity at the end of the day. We're taking a break. We're back with more in a moment.
tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Those stupid idiots are trying to get ahead of me. But I won't let them. That money's going to be mine.
Somebody's giving that woman advice. Now she says she wants to speak with Ramon.
What do we do, Rulo? What now?
I don't know. Let me think, bro. Your place is under surveillance, and we know there are more people there with you. See? You can't say anything, huh? Be careful. You don't want to play games with me. I'm gonna give you a chance to speak with your son. But I don't want 500,000. Now I want 600,000.
All right, but before I give you a single cent, I want to speak to my son Ramon.
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Teacher, you are not understanding.
Some of you are about to have the worst day of your pathetic lives.
And who gave you the right to speak to people like that?
You guys, leave me alone. I don't know you anymore.
Can we talk privately?
Leave me alone.
You guys focus, eh?
I have a feeling you can be a lily vanning guy.
We are trying to focus here.
No singing in this classroom. Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Welcome back to the program, and thank you so much for being a part of the show this far. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and we're having a conversation around the viewpoint when it comes to Article 261 of the Constitution, which had the President of the Supreme Court, in this case, that is the Chief Justice, give a petition to the President to dissolve National Assembly for having failed to come up with legislation to enable the country realize the two-thirds gender principle. At the point we were discussing this with Joseph Simeha, who's still here with me in studio, a political analyst. Thank you, sir, for being a part of the show this far. Now let's talk about presentation of options that are going to lead to a choice that will realize the two-thirds principle. Which are some of these options that we may work with?
I think first of all is to go back to the basics in terms of understanding what the Constitution provides for on the question of the two-thirds gender principle, or just the principle of equality. And I find that at Article 27 of the Constitution on equality and freedom from discrimination. And more specifically 27.8, because now this is to do with what is happening in Parliament. That in addition to the measures contemplated in Clause 6, Clause 6 talks about the state taking legislative and other measures, including affirmative action programs and policies, to redress any disadvantage, including disadvantage based on gender discrimination. And then the one that I would like to talk about is 8. In addition to those measures, the state shall take legislative and other measures to implement the principle that no more than two-thirds of the members of elective or appointive bodies shall be of the same gender. Now here we are talking about an elective body, because this ruckus has been brought about by the clamor to enact a law that can give us numbers that reflect that principle in Parliament. So far, they've not touched many other public bodies, including Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Soon we will be coming here to talk about the application of the two-thirds gender principle in KBC and many other public institutions.
Although for this show we have, we have 3 women and 1 man.
Okay, very well. If this show meets that threshold, then congratulations.
Thank you.
That's very good.
Yep.
And Parliament, should pick a cue from this.
Yep.
So, if you focus, the options are limited, in my opinion, if you focus at the tail end on numbers, how many numbers of women, or either the disadvantaged gender at that time, you want to get into parliament. If you focus on that, the options are limited. But if you look at the background, the context that gives us fewer women than men, or in future, as someone was saying off air, maybe there'll be fewer men than women. If you focus on that substance, maybe you can affect this and we can have many, many options out of this. And one of the options, in my opinion, for this one, specifically to do with Parliament, National Assembly and Senate, in my opinion, is to change the electoral system. We can do that if right now we have a constituency-based, one constituency, the constituency-based first past the post system. Now, if we have a mix, for example, there are other options, but if we have a mixed member proportional representation, which you are looking at the number, the population, you are giving political parties, let's call it a quota, that will be based on the numbers of votes they get. But they come up with a list. This happens, for example, in South Africa. You come up with a list in advance of those people whom you will send to parliament based on the number of votes you get at an election. So when people go to vote, they're not voting for Simeha, they're not voting for Asami, they are voting for a political party and ideas. So that on that list, you prioritize, ensure that it's a mixed list. Given that right now, because I talked about mixed member means you also have some directly elected MPs. And given that right now we still have the conditions that give us more men than women prevailing in our country, you still have, fair enough, you still have the individual MPs elected from constituencies, but when it comes to those that you allocate to the parties, then in the spirit of affirmative action, you put priority on women. You say the parties must give us this many number of qualified women.
Nice. I love the fact that you say qualified, because that is where we are headed, Simeha. A similar thought at one point was, flouted and presented to the National Assembly, and they rejected it based on what you've just said. Qualification, number one, and the political party structure that we have in this country. Every time we have party nominations, how do we report on them? Shambolic, chaotic, can't agree, men in black, I don't know what. So how will our political party structure facilitate that kind of a choice?
First of all, it's never an event to build a democracy or to build a nation. It's a process. It's a lifetime process. So the fact that we've had problems in the past with our political parties does not mean that we will throw them out, the child with the dirty bath water, yes. That we will throw them out as options for political representation, for representation and negotiation of interests, for management of power in society, political power. We will not throw them out. What we have to do is to continue focusing on bettering this democracy, and that means that we have to continue attempting to perfect our political parties, our political system, which includes political parties. So yes, those weaknesses have existed in the past. They still do exist in many parties. Parties as of themselves have to do something about them. But as a nation, we don't leave it to parties, because parties are not private clubs. However, they are public institutions.
So let's question now this process that has been left to the nation. Let's try and divorce the principle from politics. Let's take a look at even appointive positions. Let's take a look at parastatals, for example. Let's take a look at composition of cabinet. Are you convinced that whatever it is that we've just said for the last 15 minutes is going to be realized in the near future?
It will be realized. I am convinced that if we are human beings, and I suppose we are, yes, human beings, yes, that
sort of.
we accept the principle of equality in dignity as human beings, male, female, child, adult, that we are equal in human dignity. If we are human beings, we accept that principle. Although it may be realizing it, manifesting it in our lives may be eluding us, the more we get educated, not sitting in a classroom, but generally educated, especially for character, the more we look at ourselves and accept that something is wrong.
Yeah, the mindset is wrong.
Yes,
Simeha, because
our mindset.
The mindset is wrong because even when you look at sentiments by Oscar Sudi, for example, just the other day, and I'm not limiting this conversation to that. I'm talking about how the society perceives the position of a woman. If someone wants to insult you and I right now, Simeha, anaweza tuambia wacheni umama. No, and that in itself will be an insult. And I mean, what I'm getting to is, even when you say dignity and equality, society and perception and making sure that we understand that we can be in this together, work together to realize a better society. Are we ready? The mindset in itself around that, is it ready enough?
The example you've given, Sammy, I think is slightly different but extremely important. The position our culture has given, not just a woman, not just any woman, a mother. I know that when I was growing up, all you needed to say is mama yako. You know, that's really just saying your mother. But we took that as an insult. If you want, just don't touch my mother. I think, let me just cut myself short.
Exactly.
Just don't. That is sacred ground. It is so sacred. Don't go there. Deal with me. So I think that one is positive. We must keep mothers elevated. They must stay there. I always say the one woman you should trust without, not the only, the one woman you should trust without even questioning is your mother, unless she gives you reason not to trust her. The others have to give you reasons to trust them, including my sisters and other women in our lives. But mother, you should automatically trust. So that one is positive. That one is positive. But the mindset that you are talking about, Sami, the patriarchal system is extremely powerful. And this is not just about Africa. Anywhere we have a patriarchal system, including in the United States that pretends to be a pace setter in democracy, including in Britain or United Kingdom. The patriarchal system, any system of management of power in society is powerful. For you to overturn that system, for you to change it, you have to do very radical things. We are socialized to believe as boys that we are better than girls, that girls are subordinate, and it took Sammy, I want to make a confession here, it took education. It took me to be educated post-high school for me to begin to realize the gender dimensions of everything anything I'm involved in. I didn't know this. I had to be educated. This thing doesn't come automatically that we should be nice to women, treat them well, accept that we are equal. It does not come automatically, especially when you have been socialized through a very powerful patriarchal system of power management in society.
Because we've also seen women who have tried to contest for positions before, and honestly, the bashing, the violence some of them face, it's just ridiculous. How do we marry that? Because we can have a principle, but then we can have a principle. But at the end of the day, vitu kwa ground ziko very, very different.
So that's that. You bring us back to what the question you had asked. First of all, on appointive positions, unfortunately, the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution, did not give us anything that we could do to people who are in charge of appointive organs or institutions. From the president to cabinet secretaries to the head of public institutions, including I should hope he's watching, the MD of KBC, that if they don't do whatever they need to do through executive action, administrative actions, if they don't do what they need to do, for us to realize this principle of two-thirds gender principle, that there's some sanction. Unfortunately, this constitution, the framers never gave us that.
In their wisdom.
In their wisdom.
Never gave us that.
Or lack of it there. But they gave us a sanction for parliament, when it fails to legislate on any, not just this one, any legislation provided for by the Constitution. So yes, because of the socialization, because of our patriarchal system, you can see we have failed even in cabinet. We have failed in parastatals. We have failed in all different manner of executive office in the national executive as well as county executive. Yet those ones just need a mind, a reasonable mind and a pen. Just a reasonable mind is all you need. Are we saying that we are short of reasonable minds? I do not know. I will not answer that. But perhaps it speaks to something deeper, that it will not be about numbers in parliament alone. The other measures that the Constitution talks about, I think, must be what we must do to re-educate ourselves as Kenyans. How can we alter our thinking? How can we alter our character through an indigenous education system that can redesign how we think about ourselves as men and women and our value in society? I'm telling you, this education system that we have, by the time you are taken through from pre-primary to university, patriarchy is what informs you, how you make decisions. It's
even at a ministry level.
Yes.
I mean, the entry point for a boy is 2 points or 3 points higher than the entry point of a girl. And I have failed to say that from the flip side. The entry point of a girl is 2 or 3 points lower than the entry point of a boy. I mean,
but you still find less women
exactly
in these institutions.
In these institutions, and you wonder what exactly is happening moving forward. And these are some of the conversations I feel we should have before we think of a political solution towards the gender principle.
We have an education system, Sami, that prepares us to be, it prepares us to be extracted from. It prepares us to support an extractive system.
Exactly.
It was then colonialism. It has changed into something else, neocolonialism. It's a system that thrives on domination and extraction. If I want to dominate you, why would I take you through an education system that liberates your thinking? I take you through an education system that values command and exam. Follow this, cram this. When I ask you at the end, answer the way I've told you, you pass.
And then give it a very fancy word.
How does that change our minds in terms of how we view women and women's value in society and participation in the affairs of society? It has to begin in our minds, not in numbers in parliament. Yes, I agree that something has to be done, visibly done in public institutions, but a more long-lasting solution has to be us revisiting our education system.
Joseph Simeha, political analyst, thank you so much for joining us. We've raised very pertinent issues. There was the deliberate need to divorce this conversation from politics and what is happening out there, the rhetoric, and just get into the realities, the patterns, the dimensions, the factors that can influence realization of the 2/3 gender principle. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Thank you for watching The Viewpoint. Have a fantastic day ahead. Good morning.